All right, we are live. Welcome to All Politics Are Local, America's number one political hip hop streaming talk show. We are glad to have a wonderful show on tonight. We are packed, and we have a lot of really cool guests who are talking about different things, as we do on All Politics Are Local. Forgive my voice right now. I'm actually recovering from COVID. Got it on Monday, and I'm like, but I'm glad we're on 2024 COVID and not 2020 COVID, because I just got a stuffy nose right now, and it ain't all that bad, right? Like, I had the flu. I'm good. So tonight we're going to start off at 6 p.m. with Sharon Redding of the Community Sentinels of the Newark Community Street Team, talking about a women's clothing drive and the importance of that. And we're going to get into a deeper conversation also about like what she's doing with that and what are the Community Sentinels, and a lot of information like that about the Newark Community Street Team. A lot of work that's going on in Newark, a lot of people don't know about, right? And I think that these are good efforts to allow us to better understand it. A lot of people are like, hey, we don't want to be involved in politics. We don't see a connection about things that are going on. We don't know the difference between administrations, and what's the difference between Republicans and Democrats, or people, or local politics and regional and national politics, and people don't get the connection. One of the things you're going to see all the way through the show is really us having that conversation, hopefully, like, where people will see what some of those things are, right? So we're here to ask you questions, comment, join our YouTube channel at All Politics Are Local, All Politics with a R, local, on YouTube as well. At 6:30, we're going to have Trevor Conroy. He's the chair of the youth committee for the People's Organization for Progress, and he's going to be talking on his new leadership training program. People's Organization for Progress has been around for over 30 years now, right? Like, and close to 40 years now. Zai, you correct me on that. And they are getting a youth training program because they recognize that there has to be ways to train the next generation of people. So we're going to have a really good conversation about that at 6:30. At 7 o'clock, we have Jennifer Sellitti. She's returning because she's been on our show before, but right now she is the new leader of New Jersey's Office of the Public Defender. So forgive my cough. I got my juice and lemon juice, and I've got my my ginger here for that, like, post-COVID stuff.
Very good.
But Jennifer Sellitti is the new leader of New Jersey's Office of the Public Defender, and so she's going to talk to us about what her old role was, right, when she was not in government, and then now what's her new role as a public defender. So then at 7:45, we're going to have the legendary Charles Barron on with and Zaid will
Don't
correct
mess it up.
You said what?
Don't mess it up.
Okay, all right, I'm gonna try. Right, Omali, Yeshitela, Omali Yeshitela,
long-standing veteran of struggle and one of the co-founders of what is now generally known as the Uhuru movement, and who is going on trial for his life because the question of political prisoners is not a past question; it's a very current one.
Wait, he is going on trial?
Yes. July July 29th, 2022, his space was raided by the FBI in St. Louis and in St. Petersburg, Florida. Him and his wife were put in handcuffs. And Baba Omali is old enough to be my father.
I was getting ready to say, how old is he?
I'm in my early 60s. Okay. He's 82. He'll be 83 in a minute, right?
And they arrested him this year
for his 80s. Great shape, but a man facing 15 years on some bogus charges of being an agent of the former Soviet Union or Russia. Him, Penny S, who we had on recently, right? And Jesse Neville they're facing up to 15 years, and going into prison at any age is tough.
Wait, time out. So you're telling me
you missing all this?
Zai,
ain't you the great Jonathan Austin?
Hey man, like I'm a high school debate coach. I usually do my coaching well. There's a lot of other stuff I don't know. That's why I do this show. I do it to learn. I learn too, man. I learn from you. But so Trump is free right? They'd be like, "Oh, that's political," and all that Russian stuff. And this 80-year-old man, like, are you kidding me? The whole Republican, like,
COINTELPRO has as much, if not more, history by virtue of people who have been in office in the Democratic Party than any other party.
Right, that's true.
COINTELPRO on the Black Liberation Movement, quiet as kept, gets turned up under the Kennedy administration.
Yep.
Right?
Kennedy and Johnson.
We can go down the line. Hoover cut his chops going after Mr. Garvey, and before that, Callie House, Wilson was in the office.
Right, because I don't know who was worse, Johnson or Nixon, with COINTELPRO with Black Panthers.
May he rest in peace. Right, but and he accelerated the repression that Johnson and Kennedy, gave a wink to, but state repression is state repression.
Right. Yeah.
Right, whether it's Democrats or Republicans, they coming after you for standing up for your right to self-determination and self-respect. That's the state, right? And
but we're going to get into all that, right? Because that's going to be at 7:45. We're also going to have Hakeem Green jump in to that session as well. So we thank him in advance for coming on tonight as well. And 8:30, we have DJ Rhino's not going to be here, but we're still going to do DJ Rhino in the state of hip hop because we love DJ Rhino. So shout out to DJ, and we're going to talk about some stuff to end off the show. It'll probably be about Diddy and some of those implications, because I think that's also just like, damn, right? Like, right. I was just reading, yeah. So we can get into all that. But our first guest, Zaid, you can do the proper introduction to our first guest, Sharon Reddy.
Very beloved in our city, very beloved in her hood, right? Very beloved in the trenches of this work. And this ain't easy work. Trying to put the pieces of our people back together again is some heavy work, especially when them pieces are full of blood.
Yes.
And this work that we do along these lines is full of blood, right? And you got to have a real strong love for our people to do this work, right? And a lot of us have done it long before this thing called, grants and stuff has come along, because our lives simply depend on it, right? Yeah. This incredible Black woman is one of those people, right? The great Queen Sharon Redding has been a long-standing presence in our beloved South Ward for decades, right? And when this thing came along called the Mighty Newark Community Street Team, a group of young and not so young folks that I'm very proud of, right? They had to make sure their community, their work is being fully driven by community messages across a spectrum of messages, right? They included this great Black woman who's a gem to us all. And as part of it, I got to lift this up too, and we will come back to it certainly in our remarks, Queen Sharon, is that when the street team holds their bi-weekly roundtable, the public safety roundtable, every other Tuesday, 10 a.m. sharp, right? We draw almost 100 people almost every 2 weeks, reporting out on this work and engaging everybody else that's trying to come to this work. On the question of holding those of us who were responsible to our community accountable, including our law enforcement folks, Sharon is a very important voice of accountability, like our elders have always been, right? So with that, let's jump in. Sharon, what's going on, my queen? Talk to us.
How are you? How's everybody? Peace and blessings to everyone. Peace and blessings. Jonathan, I hope you feel better. Peace and blessings and healing spirit to you. Yes.
Well, let's tell your NCST story.
What's NCST?
That's the abbreviation for the No Community Street Team, right?
Okay, let's use the whole thing, because most people won't know what it is. And they should.
Right on to that, right, How did you come to the Newark Community Street Team, and how did they come to properly bring you in to their line of forces doing this work?
Well, Zaid, I came to Newark Community Street Team. I had just retired. I was a preschool teacher for 25 years, and I had to retire early because of a bad leg. So I just retired maybe a couple of months, and I know Shadi Dukes, who is the founder of New Direction.
Directions, yes, sir.
Yes, well, he was friends. He had been friends around here because I live on Hawthorne. I mean, I live on Clinton Place, but Hawthorne Avenue, Tillinghast. That was our hood, as we all say. And I used to always help him do different things in the community, and he knew I always did different things in the community too. So he came to me when he first started with CST, Newark Community Street Team, and said, Miss Sharon, we need you. We need your voice. We need you as a person in the community. So I told Shahid, it happened to be a Sunday, and they know Sunday is my day. I just cool out, watch my football, just take, care of me. So I said, well, I'm gonna pray on it and see. And he was just telling me, what Newark Community Street Team wanted to do and stuff in the community and stuff. And, we have been going through so many different things up here at the Upper Clinton Hill, the South Ward and stuff. And, we had our share of killings. My nephew, he was killed on Hawthorne Avenue. Then I had another nephew that was killed down at, excuse me, yeah, everybody's a fire trucks going by, down in Mildred Helms Park, and then I also had a couple of my students killed too, one right around the corner from me on Hawthorne Avenue. So it had, something that I had been wanting to do because I worked in the Central Ward, and I just seen, the devastation of, the gun violence and stuff. I had parents that were killed and stuff, students, like I said, that were killed. And I was a preschool teacher. So when Shadi asked me to come there, I came to the first meeting and stuff. And, I was first welcomed in with, it was only like 15 of them then, and I was the only community member. And they asked me, what could we, what did I want to see in my community? And from then on, they just kind of just guided me to going before the Senate in New Jersey about our victim rights bill, telling my story about my nephew and how it affects our families and stuff. And, how we, as a Black community were being denied, services and stuff from victim services and stuff.
In there.
Yes, and I just,
that was people were even denied services from victim services statewide.
Yes,
Context very quickly, right?
Yes.
Victims of violence, there is a pool of resources called Victims Compensation Services, right? That may help you, dealing with the adjustments of bills, relocation if necessary, those kind of things, right? But it was a matter of course for years that in Black communities, people were to be denied outright, offhand, regardless of whether or not they deserved it. And if they did not have the knowledge or the will to appeal, we're going to keep that money here in the state.
Right.
That's had it for a long time. One of the accomplishments of the Newark community-based violence intervention ecosystem, as we call it, is that by virtue of us literally claiming some of that work in our community, we change the character of that, so that's not the order of the day anymore. But that's that's you lose someone. I remember when I tried to go for it when I had my ordeal when I had to deal with a knucklehead putting a bullet through my ugly behind. Right? They treated us like criminals.
Right.
Right. So that was an important transformative moment in this work that needs to be appreciated. Keep rolling. I'm sorry, I just wanted to give that some context.
Yes, and just putting a voice to that because even when you were shot and stuff, and the police would come to the hospital, if you didn't want to talk after being traumatized and stuff, they were saying that you were being, you were being uncooperative and stuff, and that was already automatically, you were automatically disqualified from getting any money to help you, with the claims and stuff. So I went with a couple of other people when we went, and I testified. I had two senators come, speak to me and stuff, and the bill was passed to where now victims victims of crime are able to, put in a claim to get funds to help them, whether it's to bury their loved one or to just get services for themselves and stuff from, dealing with the trauma and everything they've been through. Because also, it was really big for me because my son was also shot, and he was able to go and get, all the services that the state, they paid for everything from the trauma when he was in the hospital, from the services that he got afterwards. So that was big. And just fast forward, just, Newark Community Street Team just like gave me the voice to where, what Zaid just talked about, the public safety roundtable, where we have law enforcement come in and, different people from the community and stuff. And we're able to like talk to law enforcement one-on-one about what's going on in our community and stuff and hold them accountable. And Zaid could tell you, I'm very outspoken, very, very passionate about my community. I love my community because I've seen what what trauma has done to my community and stuff. Just talking from the mothers out here in the streets, from the young men on the corners and stuff, young men coming to want to sleep on my couch and stuff because they had nowhere to go, from being that victimized that they were and everything. So Newark Community Street Team was able to give me that vessel to guide me to bring my activism to where it's at now and stuff, to where, I'm a community sentinel. And a community sentinel is a person that NCST offered. It's a 10-week course where it's taught by Professor Toby Sanders. And we're taught civics, where we are learning about.
By the way, a brilliant teacher, an important unsung clergy voice in our ecosystem and whatnot, but a brilliant teacher. And I'm dying to sit in on that program and check y'all out. I think we might hear back from him, but I wanted to know I had you on. Go. Keep talking.
And, it started in 2020 during the pandemic, and it was just it was 7 of us, and 5 of us were seniors, and we talked about civics. We talked about being vanguards in our community, how we could police our own communities, how we could come together to help each other in our communities and stuff. And it started off for those 6 seniors, which I was one of them. And we had a small graduation after the 10 weeks, and we received a small stipend, but it just took me to a next level in my activism too, because learning about different things, because some of the questions we were asked was, what does the Attorney General do? What does the Attorney General of the state of New Jersey do? My answer was, he protects the police, not knowing that he's supposed to be protecting the people of the state of New Jersey and stuff. And it just, a bell just went off in my head, and me being a teacher and everything. And it just made me want to learn more and more and more, and really get into my community and really, teach my community. And as of 2024, we just had a graduation in January. We have over 200 Sentinels. And a lot of the Sentinels are just, it's intergenerational. We have the young children with the seniors, and we have the young men with the young women, and we're just there talking and, just learning from each other, talking about trauma and how trauma affects us, and mainly being in for one another without being judged and stuff, and just doing things in the community. And me being the top sentinel and stuff, as Professor Toby Sanders says and stuff, that's my lead stuff. So I do a lot of things in the community. I have started where I do food giveaways during the holidays and stuff, where I started collecting different things, canned goods and foods and stuff, and set up on Hawthorne Avenue and Clinton Place, where I give out soup and sandwiches during Halloween time, which started during the pandemic, seeing how my neighborhood, my community was struggling, and I just got together and just got 100 sandwiches and 100 cups of soup together and gave them out, and it just blossomed from there. Where I do it every year around the same time during harvest time. I also do a pocketbook giveaway for women that are in shelters, women that are out on the streets and stuff during Mother's Day, and I put personal items and goods in there, body washes and socks and stuff, gift cards when I could get them, and I collect pocketbooks. And over the time, I collect coats. This year, I gave over 125 coats away, where I collect them, and I just reach out. I have a network that I just reach out and ask people for different things, and we go and set up the community sentinels and other people from the Newark Community Street Team organization, other departments and stuff. And so tomorrow, over the past couple of months, I've been collecting so many women items, and I know that this month is International Women's Month. So tomorrow we'll be having a women's celebration to say where we'll be giving out shoes, clothes, coats. I have personal items. I have so many pants, so many different things. I have stuff for children. I have canned goods. I have stuff that people have been bringing me constantly all day, all this week and stuff. And it's just to give back to the community, because I just found out in the community, sometimes we suffer for so much trauma and stuff. It's just the little things that we sometimes need. Maybe we might need that coat, or we can't afford it and stuff. And, you know, this year, it just was so heartwarming for me and our Sentinel group that we was able to get so many coats, because it was just so many people in need. And I still have coats for tomorrow too, for people that might not have got one. And it's just about giving back, because sometimes that trauma just makes us, you know, feel like we're worthless or we can't go on and stuff. And just to be that neighbor out there to say that we see you, that we understand what you're going through, and to give that help. So it's just always been put on my heart. Before I even started with Newark Community Street Team, I would have little cookouts to give out hot dogs and hamburgers and stuff to the kids, take kids on trips and stuff. And, you know, in my teaching, I also made sure that I always had things for my kids to have. Me being a preschool teacher, always buying like socks and coats for children that need them, getting shoes and stuff. So it's just always like really been in my heart to really serve my community and stuff. And like I'm saying, Newark Community Street Team has just really like supported me with whatever my endeavor I want to do in the community, to also let them know about all the services that they have. They have a trauma recovery center, a brand new remodeled trauma recovery center on South 16th Street. They're going to have a grand opening soon, where it's like maybe one of the, I think it's 10 in the whole country, and they're one of the 10 where they bring trauma services for people from Essex, Union, and Hudson County from ages 10 on up, to deal with the trauma that they go through. We have an eviction prevention program where they try to help you find different things so you won't be evicted and stuff, and show you how, you know, the law, what the law is. We have the victim services, like I was talking about. North Street Team does victim services, where they help you with your claim towards victim services and help you get the services you need, whether you need to go to the trauma recovery center or whether you just need to have a case manager to help you get along. We have an overdose response team where they give out Narcan and kits to help you, to make sure that we're out here to help people that might have an overdose out here. And
we had on a couple of weeks ago, right before his training that he did at Rutgers.
Okay, so you've met Divide, and then we have HRI, which is high risk intervention, where they go to try to stop and quell the violence before it escalates into anyone getting hurt and everything, and trying to make a peaceful outcome of it. Sometimes we don't always have to call the police for different things. We can just call HRI programs that we have in the city. And we just have NCST just does so much. And just as one part, we have the hospital violence intervention program, who we are teaming with tomorrow. They have an HFIB office right there. They come out of Beth Israel Hospital and University. We are right there at your bedside to help you get services and stuff after you've been wounded or shot and everything. You know, because sometimes you don't want to talk, and they look just like us. These are people that are in our community and stuff. They're not outsiders. These are people that might have had a hard time, that might have served time and stuff, and given this second chance to serve back their community. Oh, and we also have, I don't know how I could forget this, our safe passage, that you might see the words NCST, which is Newark Community Street Team, by certain schools here in the city, which we are contracted to make sure the students get back and forth safely and stuff. To make, you know, to have that presence there, it means a lot. And I just was awarded a new job with NCST. I am the parent liaison, where I go to all the different schools that we have safe passage at. And
I didn't know that. Congratulations are in order, my queen.
Yes, I talk with the parents. I talk with the students. My first couple of weeks, helping the students get some sneakers and stuff, helping parents get food, letting them know about all the resources we have and stuff here in the city, and just being that person that the parent can come talk to when they don't want to talk to anybody from the school, and just to help guide most of the parents and let them know that they're not there by themselves and that we are there to help them, and we want to give the resources out there to help our city heal.
Now, I just want very, very quickly. I just want to go over the specifics tomorrow. 12 to 2 o'clock, 1072 Bergen Street. That's where everything is going to take place, right?
Right next door to the Domino's Pizza, right there on that corner. We're gonna have tables outside. We're gonna have about 7 to 8 tables. Like I'm saying, we're gonna have everything that I have packed up now. Like I said, I have about 5, 6 bags of women's shoes, children's shoes. I have some men's stuff. I have coats. I have feminine products for women and stuff. I have shirts, dresses, you name it, I have it. God, this has been so good to me to help me do this in my community and stuff. So please come out. Everything is free. If you see something that you need, or if you know someone, please bring them, or just let them know that they can come down here and they are be able to come get something that they might be able to help them with, because we could all use a lending hand and stuff. And people in the community really need to be able to help one another.
Absolutely. You ran down the whole program without me having to say much more, and I like when it rolls like that. Jonathan, you wanted to ask our queen something?
So just more introduction about the drive tomorrow, right? Like why the women's drive for shoes, and because I know that there's community sentinels means that you're looking out for the community. You mentioned all the things that you're doing. Why this drive? Why now? Talk to me about it.
Yes. Well, like I said, like on the flyer, I know it's Women's International History Month, and the women in our community are really the backbone of our community. And it wasn't where I just got shoes and stuff. I just be getting stuff all the time that people just bring me because they know that I make sure it's put to good use. And I just happen to get so many women's shoes this time. I mean, really nice stuff that, that people in our community could really use. And a lot of women, it would have been a holiday. Some people celebrate Easter and stuff. So a lot of women just look out for the family and stuff. So for them to be celebrated tomorrow, to say, this is, something that you can come get, that we celebrating you, that we see you in the community, we see the need in the community and stuff. And that's why it's not mainly for women, but the focus is for women, because like I said, we are the backbone in this community and stuff. And we take so much. There's so many women that I talk to. We had a women's sentinel group in our last cohort, and that was one of the most powerful cohorts we had. And it wasn't the regular syllabus that we use for our sentinel programs. This was a group that I had envisioned a while ago, of a group of women that came from all different backgrounds, no matter whether you're professional, whether you're a stay-at-home mom, whether you just out here trying to get your life together. We had 15 phenomenal women from all different backgrounds, all ages and stuff. And we all came together and talked about different things that were going on in our lives. And we all realized we were all going through the same things, but in similar circumstances that we were going through. And we, were able to connect. And that group was just so powerful, that all the women in there that, we didn't even want the group to end. We really didn't, because we were all supportive to one another and stuff. And it was just so powerful. And that's what some of the things that we need in our community, that to let people know that we are there, that we go through the same things, that no matter me being a teacher, me being the activist that I am in the community, I go through a lot of the same things that a lot of the other women. Even though I'm an elder in the community, I can understand. I've been through some of this stuff, and to have other people understand what you go through, it is so powerful. And I'm just getting filled up a little bit now.
It's all right. It's all right. That's all right. That's how we roll.
Yeah.
All right. It's all right. And now let me just ask you. I'm gonna put this in the. This is a community education question, and I'm trying to get the link to open up. How if folks were somebody watching and paying attention to you, as we got a lot of folks doing that tonight, want to check out the Sentinel program, how do they do that?
Well, you can reach out to the Newark Community Street Team. You can go onto their website. We also have brochures and stuff, or you can definitely reach out to Professor Toby Sanders at Newark Community Street Team, and he could tell you, because I know we should be having a cohort starting sometime this fall. Like I said, we just finished our last, and I think that was our 11th cohort. I'm just sorry. Yeah,
Nope.
I just get so emotional.
No, it's okay, because you're touching people's lives that
women
for a long time.
And this is why we love you.
Absolutely.
And I just want the audience to know how important it really is that we all have an outlet. We all have to be there for one another. And I know tomorrow, it's going to be a special day. It's going to warm my heart, because I know for Dr. King's day, we did a day of giving, the Sentinels and HFib. And that's the day we gave away like 75 coats and stuff. It was cold that day. And we were able to really service so many people that really didn't need coats. And so many people were so, so thankful. And I had a friend that came and donated blankets, sheets, towels, different things. So it's just so important that we just, be there for our community. I know sometimes you might not know what to do, but if you just, know someone in your community that's doing what I do, you might want to donate anything, some clothes that you might have that's still, slightly worn, or even like a couple of dollars or something just to help, with the little cost of the different things that, that I do and stuff. And I've never asked anybody, because God has just blessed me so, so much that no matter what I want to do in this community, he always makes a way for me to do it. And I have so many people that support me. That's how I'm able to do what I'm going to do tomorrow and stuff, because if they know it's the love that I have for the community, that I just want to make sure that we take care of the people in our community, because that's our family. We are all family, whether we don't have the same blood running through us, but we are all family. We all live together. We just want to live safe, peacefully, have our kids go to school, grow up, and be what they want to, and not have to worry about gun violence, or if I want to be a senior and sit on my porch, have to be shot, or if I want to walk across the street, that I want to worry about getting hit by a car.
We didn't get a chance to talk
about my dream.
Yeah, we didn't get a chance to talk about our whole fight around these crossing guards. I got to get you and B back on to do that, and everybody pay attention very quickly. This is our 5th Friday show, right? Every once in a while we get a long month that has a 5th Friday. We have more segments when we do that, right? I want to make a point, Jonathan, to have someone in our new community ecosystem, community-based violence ecosystem, every 5th Friday or 4th Friday, depending on how the month plays out. We'll make sure we're consistent with these report outs. Right?
Absolutely. It's one of the, I think the Newark Community Street Team, I think that the ecosystem that we have that deals with violence prevention, it's one of the most important things that's going on in the United States right now, right?
Yeah.
What's going on inside Newark?
Violent crime in Newark by more than 50% to a 60-year low. We did that without the popo.
Yes.
Right. And the thing is, in Newark, these programs have been gone. It's grassroots movements that led to policy on a local level that gets followed on a statewide level, that gets followed on a national level. So these were local initiatives all over the country that bubbled up to actual federal policy now that's giving back down because it's recognizing these things work. And it's one of those things that, like, the when people are like voting doesn't matter, right? That who's in office doesn't matter. They don't have the solutions, right? They're not going to have the solutions. But the people who are going to have the solutions, they need the people to negotiate with.
Right.
They need the people who aren't going to just be like, F you, when they have things that work, or impose from top down stuff that won't, right? So the stuff that you're doing right now is some of the most important work that's being done in the United States, bar none, for our communities. Absolutely. So thank you. Honored to have you, and we're going to have you on for multiple reasons.
Don't forget to ask.
Thank you so much.
Who is your favorite? We are. There's an underlying theme of hip hop that goes throughout our show because we think that it is infused in all of our politics and all of the community things that we do. Who is your favorite hip hop artist, individual or group? That's the last question for everybody.
I like, believe it or not, I like Tupac because he speaks the truth.
Most famous cover of the Black Panther Party. I'll take that any day.
He speaks the truth, and I even be jamming to him and stuff when I'm doing my little work, and I be sitting here bopping. But thank you so much. And I just want to make this last point. The real highlight was when the governor came here and announced that money for violence intervention, and I was the one who introduced him that day. And it happened to be on the day that my nephew's birthday that got killed. So it was just so important.
Yes.
And again, right? That's wild because that's a governor who only is governor because of Newark, right? It was the votes in Newark that got him over. And the programs that you're talking about aren't top down, they're bottom up, right? And I think that is the way in which we have to understand that politics has to work for us. They're not going to have the solutions. We just need people who aren't going to tell us to F ourselves when we, excuse my language, I'm sorry, but to what to do with themselves when we bring them the solutions that actually work for our community that we have researched within our community as that whole history of the ecosystem. So it's an honor having you on, Sharon Redding.
Thank you so much.
And we will have you back. We will have you back again soon.
Yes, because I want to come talk. I'm not going to hold up much longer, but I want to come back and talk about, because I'm also a researcher for Rutgers, that we did a gun study here in Newark about illegal guns. Yes.
Wait, so you was that the one that was done when Ras Baraka was a council person, or was this a different one?
No, this is a different one.
Yeah. Okay, we got to have you back on. You got to have you back on. All right, we might schedule back in the next few weeks. So thank you.
All right, thank you, everybody.
All right.
Beautiful. Sister puts in work. She loves us. She loves our crazy ass town more than our town loves us.
Absolutely.
Who this young man?
All right, so we have Trevor Conroy, who I believe you know, right? I believe you know, because I think you're both in an organization where you might know each other, right? People's Organization for Progress is in the house. And we have Trevor Conroy on, and I believe we also have Jamie Newt.
Hi, how are you?
Newton. You got Newton.
Jamie Newton. All right.
Sorry.
All right. So now, People's Organization for Progress has been around, I believe, since like 1980, like for 40 years, right?
Yeah, 42 years this year.
42 years, right?
It started just like we started at Rutgers Newark. It started at our headquarters, the Black Organization of Students headquarters in 1982 on 101 Washington Street. That's when they first started. I opened the door for when we were much younger, to start those meetings.
So that was the on Rutgers campus, right?
Right.
And so the organization's 42 years old, right?
Yeah.
A lot of the people in the organization are older, right? Larry Ham.
We were born. That's right.
Right.
Organization's now predominantly elder.
Right. And when in 1982, man, I was in 7th grade, right? Mm-hmm. And y'all weren't born, right? Y'all weren't thinking about being born, right? Y'all weren't thinking about at least right. And so yes, we have older organizations, but now I think that you're talking about a youth initiative for leadership training that is very necessary, because the work that the most important thing sometimes is the values, right, that we have. And if one generation from the next can't transmit certain values, then I think everything gets lost, right? It just gets bought up, consumed, right? And I think that these values are very necessary to transmit. So you were talking about People's Organization for Progress. It is an organization that has been on the front line for everything from police brutality and violence to anti-violence and violence prevention to dealing with political prisoners and the release of political prisoners to economic justice, to healthcare, to all of the different things in which poor people, Black people are subject, right, to rampant discrimination. You have you have like there issue after issue that People Organization for Progress consistently deals with, and the organization is older. So what's up now? Talk to us.
Yeah. So again, Jamie and myself were the two youngest members of the organization, I believe, by maybe a decade and a half.
About 40 years.
Yeah.
I think about by 40 years, right?
Yeah. So I've now been a member of POP for just over a year, and first year was pretty chill, just wanted to support, come out, and then something I started to notice was we didn't get a lot of youth turnout to our marches or when we demonstrated. And then this summer we had the opportunity. POP went down to Washington, D.C. for the anniversary of the March on Washington. And we brought a few students, some high school students, and we also brought some Martin Luther King scholars from Seton Hall. And a bunch of the elders that usually didn't march with us and stayed back for where we had the rallies after we came back from the march, they all had a hop in their step when the youth were there, because the youth bring that fire and the youth bring that energy, because we all know the elders bring the wisdom and their experience, but it's the youth that bring the fire and the energy that gets us going and keeps us pushing further.
So I want to back up a little bit, Trevor, because that year that you're talking about, you come to the organization by virtue of the engagement that we all shared at your school. You're a student at Seton Hall University. You're also taking classes at Essex County College, but at Seton Hall, you're very much a part of the latest battle to defend Africana studies and Latin American studies, right? So I want to have that background, right? What made you take the step from a college space to a more community-based space?
I would say that transition came from the fact that our student organizing would not have succeeded without the support of the community. And just using Seton Hall as an example, I could ramble about the history of Africana studies at Seton Hall for hours, but the program wouldn't exist without the Newark community. And because the program was created due to student protests that were inspired the students were inspired by their involvement in the Newark Rebellion and Ras Baraka and the Black Power movement in Newark. So this wouldn't exist. And this Seton Hall's Africana Studies program was the first Africana Studies program in the state of New Jersey, and it was one of the first 5 in the country. So all this, Newark has a huge role to play, and the community at large played a huge role in this. So I think, and students aren't outwardly told this. So students and the youth, there's all this history and information that is there. It's just not being presented to the youth. And I view this as an avenue to involve the youth and then inspire the youth to get together and organize to push other initiatives that the youth are looking for further. Whether it's police,
I want to bring
Jamie in.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do.
Want to bring Jamie Newton?
Right. Because this young lady, right? I met her mother at Rutgers Newark. Right?
Whoa! First of all, watch how you say that, Zaid. Come on, man, it's disrespectful.
She comes from she's her mother's child. Ain't no doubt about
that. You said that. Like I met your mama at Rutgers.
That's right. Like, way back. Yeah, it was during that same era that POP was being formed, right?
So you're talking about how the generations really do.
Yes.
Create.
Yes.
Okay.
And not long ago, her mother came into the People's Organization for Progress, right? And Jamie was a little younger. right? We had a program called the Popcorn
Corn
Kids,
kids, yep.
right? And Jamie was one of our volunteers for the Popcorn Kids, and she went into school and took that energy that she got from her mother, from the organization, from her own involvement in the organization, and took that into school herself. So, Jamie, what made you come back?
I just feel like there's a need to bring the youth together because I've noticed a lot of my friends, they want to join like advocacy like programs like with Pop Student, but they don't know how to go through it. Like they don't know who to talk to, and there's like a gap between like the Pop elders and the Pop youth people. It's just me and Trevor there, so why not try to have people from college and high school kids try to be more informed about Pop and what they're about, and try to make their own council where that they're more informed, they can actually make a difference because people know about Pop, they don't know who to talk to about Pop. Pop's not really, or they're around, but it's not like around socially wise. Like they don't know who to talk to, who to count, like who to connect that with.
That's important. That's
I,
important. Go ahead, Jonathan. I'm sorry.
Actually,
Go ahead.
Jenny, I have a question for you also, right?
Sure.
With the youth initiative, right? Like, it seems like from the conversations I have with young kids of your generation, and both of you are in college right now?
Yes.
And the conversations I have with your generation and I'm a teacher and debate coach, and the conversations I'm seeing on the media, various protests, it seems like there is a strong mainstream generational divide in which, like on mainstream media, like we don't understand these kids on college. We don't know what they're doing. They're just crazy. They're just talking about settler colonialism. They're talking about all these other things. And it seems like with the ideology of People Organization for Progress that really came of age, right? Under the politics in Newark, like Larry Hamm will talk about Mary Baraka. Larry Hamm will talk about the Black Panther Party. Larry Hamm will talk about like all of those things and thinkers all the way back, right? And so there's a certain way of questioning white supremacy, questioning actual colonialism, neocolonialism, that it seems like almost just skipped a mainstream generation and has been around in Black communities and in progressive communities, but is very much a more mainstream way of thinking in your generation, right? I'm just asking, right? Like, do you find that there's a natural connection between your generation and the ideology that's within People's Organization for Progress?
I think that what there is like we have a lot of social media, so a lot of things that we're learning based off of is basically social media, and there's like a disconnect. There are a lot of people like my age, like growing up, they don't have like the resources. They don't know a lot about like our Black history and our culture. They're just like influenced by what they see. They don't know who to talk to in regards to like certain historical aspects. Like with Pop, like my mom, she's like, "You're gonna go to Popcorn Kids. You're gonna learn about this." Like I didn't know who the Newark Black Revolutionary was until my mom had me go to Popcorn Kids every Saturday, which was very great for just learning about everything. But I feel as though that we're very influenced by what we see on social. We don't talk to our elders. We don't know much about. That's why I'm saying so with this program that we can have people from Pop who are elders talk to people who are youthful so they could be more intertwined with what's going on. They don't really know like a lot of the historical context based off of North white supremacy, etc. They just know based on what they see online. They don't talk to people who experienced it, like who experienced the Newark Rebellion, who experienced what happened with Mary Baraka, vice versa.
You're muted, Jonathan.
So it's really like when you go to a Pop meeting, and this isn't like you're literally getting oral history, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Like you're literally talking to people who are in a generation that were organizing and fighting for their lives and risking their lives, and you're hearing stories from them directly.
Yes, that's what Zaid. He taught me a lot of things about Pop and Black history. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't know a lot of things.
And what you talk about in terms of like internet, right? You're saying that you might get a lot of things from Reels, you might get a lot of things from there, but the context you get from the conversations.
I feel like as though like when you hear it from someone like physically, if you're watching a video of a documentary, they're not really, they didn't experience what was going on, the who, what, when, why, and how. I talked to an elder, like, okay, I was here when this happened. I was here when they were protesting. It's just you really get to know like the who, like what really happened. Like you could like a lot of things online aren't always accurate unless you hear stuff from the horse's mouth. That's why my mother always taught me, like, unless you talk to someone who actually experienced it or went through it, like, okay, what was going on, who was doing what. But it's just good to just know that. That's why we need to gap that elderly versus Gen Z versus Boomer gap. That's why it's very essential to have the pop.
Say that, daughter. Gen Z versus the Boomers.
Wow, right, fair. That's a fair way to look at it, right? Because a lot of that is history, and a lot of conversations are probably good. So, what is the program, and how are you doing outreach? And if people wanted to outreach toward you, where would they go? What does it look like?
Yeah, so currently, literally, we voted to create the committee 2 weeks ago, so brand new. So our main initiative is we're currently outreaching predominantly to college students because their semester is going to end in a month. So we're fighting against that clock before they all go back home for the summer. And then we're also focusing on high school students, especially because we have a bit more time to recruit them. But we're looking to not only our main thing is political education. So not only the history, but also we're looking to integrate some theory work and also local history. So history of Newark, like the fact that several buildings in Newark were a part of the Underground Railroad. And not only like just sitting down in a book club and just doing physical theory reading and book discussion, but also looking to apply that learning in more than one avenue. So like visiting those sites like on Newark with the Underground Railroad, like there's numerous sites throughout Newark and historical sites that we should be tapping into and the youth should know about. So visiting where the Newark Rebellion happened, visiting all these sites, and so not only educating in a quote classroom setting, we don't have a classroom, but just in a meeting room, and also educating on the street, educating through application of theory and application of experience, so that gaining the experience, doing leadership training and this is involving everyone every step of the way.
When you were talking, I was thinking of Noelle Lorraine Williams, my favorite local intellectual, right? Like,
you gotta get it back on too. It's been a minute.
Right. She is always educating about Newark's local history and its connection to the Underground Railroad. I mean, she has an entire museum exhibitions on that. So yeah, like I think that those connections are essential. And I know we are nearing toward the end of this, but is Roberto Cabañas passed away a few years ago. He was really instrumental in training a generation of kids. And one of the things that he would do is there was money to send kids away for a week for actual professional training in organizing, right? Like organizing, like apparently, right? Barack Obama was a community organizer, right? And these things are require training, right? Like there's a science to it. Is Pop investing in formal leadership training as community activist for you to go away for 2 weeks over the summer or a week during the winter, right? Like for actual formal training, and how do you organize within a community?
Yeah, so Pop is currently in the middle of, with its political education committee, developing a curriculum. And then we also want to involve the youth in that to be a part of this, which is we want to involve youth to update our website. And then with that, on the website have our book lists on various topics, whether it's colonialism and imperialism, gender inequality, the prison industrial complex, or autobiographies from radicals and their stories, and numerous other topics. So we're looking to get youth to help expand and speed up that development of that curriculum, and then also have youth learn the curriculum, and then because it's going to be the first time we're doing the curriculum, have their notes from it on how to get it, improve it.
Okay. All right, Zai. I know we're running toward the end of the segment. Time to have the question, or do you want another question? Because we have our next guest is also here as well.
Jen is probably she's probably ready. We're gonna pivot. Well, Jamie, tell us where you're at school and what's happening. Each of you tell us what's happening on your respective campuses.
So right now, I graduated from Rutgers last year, and I'm applying for grad school now for.
You already graduated?
Wow!
I'm looking for
okay.
pathology. So I got into Seton Hall and William Patterson. I'm just waiting for Rutgers, Montclair State, and Kane. So fingers crossed.
Congratulations! And I should have asked your ages when you first got on. My assumption, and again, because I'm old, right? Everybody looks really, really young. Like young people look like 10 years younger than they actually are. And yeah, so I was like, my apology for going all earlier when both of you were speaking. Yeah, because you guys are grown. You are in the workplace. You are like organizing and all the other stuff. So yes, congratulations on graduation.
Before they go, Jonathan, before we ask the ritual question, April 4th is around the corner. This young man has got a Palestinian kafir around his neck for a reason, right? Let's talk about April 4th. What's happening on April 4th?
And very briefly, because of 1 more minute, we got our guest.
Yeah, so April 4th, People's Organization for Progress is having its annual march and rally in commemoration of the assassination of Martin Luther King. And we're also connecting that with the struggle for Palestinian self-determination and for a ceasefire and stopping the genocide against the Palestinian people.
Yeah, time and place. How folks can connect.
Yeah, it'll be at Newark, just outside of the Martin Luther King statue, and then we're gonna march down Broad and Market.
And the statue is right on MLK Boulevard, in front of the new Essex County Justice Center. Right, that great big Martin Luther King statue. 4:30 is our assembly time. We're going to try and move close to 5 o'clock as we can. April 4th is one of those never forget days in our history. I belong to the last generation to see Dr. King alive, and I remember that day well, right? And it's something that we're continually trying to transmit to those coming behind us. And of course, the values and the vision and the legacy of Dr. King is something that has been one of the driving forces of the work of the People's Organization for Progress for quite some time now. And that is a consistent thread that continues. So you'll ask them the ritual question, Jonathan, and we transition.
Very briefly, who's your favorite hip hop artist, individual or group, or just whatever hip hop artist inspires the work that you are doing now?
I think Tupac, definitely. He's a very good revolutionist. He has very great songs that can help that transpire into regular everyday life. Like rap nowadays, I don't like rap nowadays. I call it like toilet water because it's just I don't like it. It's just affecting the mind. Yeah, I'm sorry, no offense. I just like
No, not offensive. I'm like, wow, you said toilet water.
Yeah, I grew up with my mom's old school. So.
No need to back down. No need to back down. It's all right. You good.
Oh yeah, I've been listening to a lot of Public Enemy, especially their "What Are You Gonna Do When the Grid Goes Down" album recently.
Okay.
Go ahead, y'all.
Okay. All right.
Y'all listen to classic stuff. All right.
Right. And new classic stuff too. So I appreciate that. Thank you so much for coming on. We got to get you both back on for this and other stuff that you're working on. So thank you. Really honored to have both of you on.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. Right, and we need to get you back on a more regular basis. So we'll talk to you about that. We'll talk to you about that as well. All right. So thank you, and we will see you soon.
Thank you too. Bye.
And we are getting ready to have our next. Wait. All right. So our next guest on Hey,
Hello.
welcome back.
How are you?
That ain't no guess.
Good. So 2 things. Welcome back and congratulations. Zai, please give the introduction.
Well, wait a minute. What did you give Donna? Congratulations. What's up? I'm missing something.
No. Congratulations on the new position of
All
right,
right.
because you were on our show before, and you had a previous position when you were on our show before, right?
Yes. Yep.
And so you could talk to us about that. The new position, you were confirmed by the New Jersey Senate.
Beautiful.
And so what you were with who before?
So I was always at the public defender's office. I've been at the public defender's office going on. It was 17 years this year.
And you look like you're 17 years old.
Thank you. I know when the young people who were on before, who were just both amazing, were talking. I was like, oh, what generation do I fall in? I'm a Gen Xer, I guess.
Okay.
But yeah, so 17 years. I've done a whole bunch of different things. Was the training director most recently, and then Governor Murphy nominated me in November to take over the statewide public defender's office. And I was confirmed by the Senate and sworn in on February 1st. So
still got right.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Before the last time you were on our show, what's the initiative that you were working on?
So the last time I was on the show, we were talking about police reform, and we were talking about a bill that would have opened up public records for police misconduct records. And a lot has changed on the police misconduct front in terms of Attorney General guidelines and some case law, but nothing has changed on that particular bill that continues to stall.
So are you in Trenton or are you on Clinton Place in Newark?
No, I'm in Trenton now, but I worked on 31 Clinton Street for years. I started with the office in 2006 and was at 31 Clinton until 2012 or so, 2012, 2013, when I went to Middlesex and then went down to Trenton. So I've kind of been all over the place in the agency.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, wait. So just so that the Office of the Public Defender is state run all the way through, and you see them and you interact with the counties, as in, is that how it works?
Yeah, so the Office of the Public Defender we're statewide. We have 1,300 employees. We are in the criminal courts. We do abuse and neglect.
1,300 employees.
1,300 employees.
I'm stopping it and saying that because people should see the scope of the work. We have our preconceived notions about what that is. Let's clear some of those up.
Yeah. It's still not enough based on your caseload. Yeah, that's
no, and I'm happy to talk about that. But yeah, we have 1,300 employees. And we're in a bunch of different areas. Like, people hear public defender and they think it's just criminal cases, but we do criminal cases. We represent adults and children in abuse and neglect cases. So child welfare cases. If the Department of Children and Families comes in and removes a child from the home, we represent both the children and the adults in those cases. And we represent people who are threatened with civil commitment for mental health issues. We also have like a small number of specialty practices, but those are our main practice areas. And we work in every county in the state. The only thing that we don't do that some people sometimes confuse us with is municipal court. So we don't work, if you go to municipal court, if you have a DWI or you have a traffic ticket or something and you see a public defender in municipal court, that is not us. We only work in the superior courts across the state of New Jersey, but we are in all 21 counties. We have almost 40 offices, 1,300 employees, 650 of which are lawyers, and the rest are investigators and support staff members.
So only when somebody's in big trouble.
Yeah, from a criminal case, yeah, 4th degrees all the way up to 1st degree cases, but not municipal court cases.
Right. So yeah, when they send you to the county, that's when that's when they need your help. I've been in municipal court a lot, and I remember hearing that they're like, "Oh, we're kicking this up to county." And I was like, ooh, they're kicking stuff up to county. And, when you watch all those things go on, and that goes to you. So yeah.
I'll say, Jen, that sometimes you don't want stuff to get to county, because if it's handled in the municipal, you would hope you would stop that person from becoming a quote unquote career criminal or something like that. I know one of the projects I worked on was trying to get drug courts started at a lower level so it wouldn't have to, so a person wouldn't progress to superior court. But while it didn't happen in the way I thought it, what they were doing in Newark with their community court was really kind of sort of the thing. So you don't
That's
always want somebody to reach superior.
case violence ecosystem, Donna. What you're laying out. That's the notion of
Yes,
procedural justice, right? And
right.
Jen, you can blow that up better than I can.
Right. So what are some of the changes that are taking place in the office now?
So the biggest change and the fundamental change that we are making in the office is this move from case-centered representation to client-centered representation and holistic representation. So what I mean by that is historically at the public defender's office, when you come in the door, let's say with a criminal case, and we help you with your criminal case in criminal court. But you might also have a child welfare case. You might have a mental health problem. You might have a substance abuse problem that we also need to help with. So by moving to a holistic model, what we're hoping to do is transform the model so that when clients come into our office, they meet with us and we give them not just a lawyer, but a team. Maybe it's more than one lawyer. Maybe it's a lawyer partnered with a social worker or an advocate. To plug them into services, that we can start representing whole people instead of just cases. And in places across the country that have moved to this holistic defense model, we are seeing less time in prison. We are seeing moves from more deferment from prison to probation. And we are seeing, on the other end, we are seeing better compliance with pretrial release. Like if somebody is out on pretrial release and they're connecting to services, they're less likely to commit another offense on pretrial release. And then on the back end, we're seeing these folks not coming back into the criminal, family, mental health, whatever system it was that it came to a public defender's office in the first place. So we're really trying to transform the model and to move the agency to be able to represent the whole person when they walk through the door, as opposed to just represent somebody on an individual case.
So let me break this down. I want you to slow that down, right? Because I think that you're talking about something that is actually important, and that the way you said it was so matter of fact and so clear that it can seem like, well, everybody does this. This is really mainstream, right? You said that you don't represent a case, you represent the individual. And am I hearing you incorrectly when you're talking about that means you look at what they need in their lives, as in social services, etc., like mental health, like are they victims of trauma, like what do they need? They're evaluated as a whole person in terms of what they need. And if you actually deal with the things that they need, if they're out on parole, which New Jersey has tried to, be a lot more progressive in its laws in terms of not holding people on bail, etc., that even when they come to court in better shape, and if they are convicted or plea, all of those things are utilized in that whatever negotiation that has to be done, so that they are incarcerated less, if at all.
Yeah, so I mean, I think there's a lot sort of to unpack there, because you're talking about different stages of the system, right? So when we talk about pretrial, it's people who are innocent, people who haven't been convicted of a crime yet, those folks are getting out under our say they get out under our bail reform system, right? They're on some sort of pretrial release. They're coming to us at the moment when they are. And look, and there are definitely exceptions to this, but by and large, people are coming to us at a moment when they're in the greatest kind of state of need, right? Either right after something has occurred in their life that has brought them into the criminal legal system. So for those folks, it's connecting them to the services that they need. It's really actually so simple, and it's just a piece that we haven't been doing, which is we have a lot of lawyers working on cases, and there's a lot of programs out in the community, in any community, What we need to do is have people be the plugs between the person and those programs. So look at this person and say, what does Jen Sellitti need? She has come to us with a drug problem. She wasn't born in this country. She has a criminal case. What services can we put her in now to make sure, number one, that she successfully completes the terms of her pretrial release, right? That she's not coming back to us under the pretrial system with another case. But also that when we resolve this case, we can resolve it in such a way that she has everything that she needs to put her in the best position not to come back. So that's kind of like the front end piece. And in places that have done this, they're seeing massive reductions in recidivism pretrial and massive reductions in prison sentences. For the back end, go ahead.
So just to break that down just a little bit more, what it sounds like you're saying is that when someone's at their lowest, they've been charged with the crime, they're brought in cuffs, they are processed by the police, probably, and many people, the most scary moment of their lives, they're probably traumatized themselves, guilty, innocent, right? They're probably traumatized themselves. You're saying there needs to be they have a lawyer, they need a social worker.
It may not always be a social worker. Some people need social workers. Some people have a constellation of issues that social workers are in the best position to address. Some people just need somebody to connect them to routine services. So the program that we're going to be piloting next year is one that is going to use what we call advocates, who are not lawyers or social workers. They're either people who are graduating from college and going into law school and going to defer law school to do this, or people who are system impacted folks, people coming out of prison with college degrees, or people coming out of prison with paralegal degrees, people who have other,
that's right.
have other system impact. Those folks are sometimes in the best position to serve as plugs into the communities. So
this has been thought out in that ecosystem way, even in the people that you're hiring as advocates. I'm glad I slowed this down, because that is so wait, is it just me, or is that like y'all sat down in the lab and thought about that with community people, and that whole piece is the piece, right? Like that piece was from community talking about who can fill these jobs, not just social worker, advocate. You were like, please tell me how you came to the conclusion, because you were like people who were impacted by the system. You're talking about getting former prisoners who have their college degree. You're talking about people interning. So that's like, how can we keep it cheap? How can we make it worth their while? How can we do all this? Talk to me, because I think that piece is important.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the work we do involving people who have been impacted by the system is one of the ways that we help our clients, right? People who have experienced the criminal legal system, people who've experienced the family system and the complexities of it, can speak to our clients and to courts and to other system stakeholders in ways that I will never be able to speak to them. So it takes all people from all different backgrounds, and it will take our ability to look at a person who comes through the door and say, these are the things that this particular person needs. And maybe that is an advocate who has had prior system involvement. Maybe that is a social worker. But we have to, have on our staff the different types of folks that can meet whatever the individual need of that particular person coming through the door is. So it'll be a whole bunch of different people. We're piloting this relatively small over the next year, but we're going to be partnering with Stanford University and the University of Pennsylvania to make sure that it works. And if we can prove that it works, then going back and trying to expand this program across the whole state.
So Jen, as they say, there's nothing new under the sun, and how things come and they're as people, the word you say reimagine, or that we bringing them to the table maybe in a different way. But as I started out, what Judge Pratt was able to do in Newark, that was a model that was perfect, because I used to work for Superior Court.
Brat, Newark born and bred.
Mm-hmm.
And well, I call her Madam Procedural Justice because that really was the anchor for the development of what we're calling procedural justice in the Newark courts. I just want to give that background, and I've been dying to get her on too.
She's amazing.
And she's out, and I know she's out doing different things. It's probably taking that message out into the world. But what she did, and like I said, I worked in Superior Court, and people felt so disconnected. And when they walked into, I can remember I worked in Essex Vicinage, and sometimes if you stood in the hallways and watched people walk in the court, they were so fearful. It's like they left everything at the door. They felt so out of control. So when you bring everything together and you begin to give people their control back to their life and show them how to, I think that is the way we're going to be most successful. And, like we counted the numbers and the days of recidivism and how people keep recommitting and so on and so forth. And that's because we weren't treating like you're going to be doing going forward and not looking at the whole problem. Like, yeah, he stole, but nobody talked about he was homeless and, and at one point nobody cared, So it's important that you get the whole story, and so that you don't go back and still have the different issues, mitigating factors that cause, I like to say, what causes Johnny to kill or steal? And when they used to do that sheet and determining, what course you're going to take for this young man, like a person who commits a crime who may have been a police officer as opposed to somebody who was homeless may not get the same type of, because they almost should have known better. So I think it's wonderful. I think we have to continue to do that and understand people, because to see somebody who's hopeless and that they have no control of how their life is going forward is very challenging.
Yeah. And I do want to also speak to the back end piece, because Jonathan mentioned something that is really important, which is parole. New Jersey's parole system is just broken. Our office, about a month and a half ago, released I think it's like 200 pages, I don't have the exact page count now, report, which was an assessment of the parole system. We started representing people in about September of 2023, started representing people on parole revocation cases, which they had not had representation from our office previously. This was a new statute that was passed to allow us to do it. And that little foot into the door into the parole system really shows us how broken it is. Almost everyone who has any kind of parole violation is held pending the resolution of that parole violation. There are 1,400 people right now in the Department of Correction that are serving sentences on technical parole violations. So haven't committed a new crime, haven't harmed anyone. Maybe they missed a meeting. Very often it's connected to homelessness. So very often it's they can't find a stable place to live or hold down a stable job. And our answer is, well, we're just going to revoke their parole and reincarcerate them. The Department of Corrections could quite literally close an entire prison if we stop sending people to prison on technical parole violations. So this back end piece is really important too. And that's both reforming the parole system, but it's also thinking about ways that as a public defender's office, we can create the back end plugs. So as people are coming out of shorter prison sentences, lengthier prison sentences, that becomes a little bit more difficult, but shorter sentences for drug cases, for nonviolent offenses, for offenses where people are going to be in for relatively short periods of time, can we start looking at ways that we can be the plugs into housing and other programming that is going to keep people stable upon release? That is an idea right now. That is not something that's going to be part of the pilot, but I'm hoping that we can move there really soon, either by, getting some sort of funding or figuring out ways we can move people around to do some of that work.
You said, sorry.
I know Jonathan was trying to ask a question.
Sure.
No
You said 1,400 people. You okay? Gotta get some water. There we go.
Sorry.
No way. It's
No,
okay.
you okay?
He is
I'm
he's
fine.
bad.
Wrong.
all right?
Went down the wrong pipe. Yes.
No,
I bet those parole statistics do that to me too.
this is post-COVID. Had it
Oh,
Monday.
sorry.
I'm better. With occasional coughing fits.
Yeah. Oh,
But you were
sorry.
saying, right? A whole prison can be like, a whole prison
Mic
could be
drop.
replaced. So
An
can you
entire
go
prison.
back to that while I get some water?
Yeah. So 1,400 people is enough people to fill one of the DOC facilities. So that could close, or it could be redirected, right, to create programs for people who are serving longer sentences in prison and create a place for them to maybe go, or create more places for programs. Right there, we can think about a million things that we could do with either a closed prison space or or getting back the money that costs the taxpayers, right? And we're talking about non-violent, right? These are people who are not going in because they committed another crime. They're going in because maybe they relapsed. And instead of getting some treatment, they've relapsed and now they're going back to finish the remainder of their whole bid. Or they can't find stable housing and they're revoked for those reasons. So really looking creatively about ways that we can fix the parole problem on the back end, and we can help people make that transition from prison to back into society a little bit easier to keep down those numbers is also something that, we're doing a lot more work in the parole space because we're representing those folks now. But longer term, we are kind of looking at ways to be those plugs to reentry. Like, we don't want to run reentry programs or do anything like that. But, I was talking to, remember one day I was talking to Reverend Boyer, who I'm sure you all know Reverend Boyer.
Very comfortable here. He's a veteran here.
I love him. And I was talking to him about this reentry concept generally, because he's very well connected to the programs that are going on in Trenton. And I said, it just seems so silly. Am I missing something? Is it really as simple as just having one or two people whose job it is to connect people to programs? And he said in his Reverend Boyer voice, which just always sounds like the voice of God.
Yes,
And he just said, Jen, sometimes the simplest ideas are the most radical. This is easy, it's cheap, and it could really revolutionize public defense.
And just what you said, being treated punitive because you couldn't find stable housing, whereas if we could have had a nonprofit on board to help them find stable housing, and saying, well, just banging down the gavel, you don't have housing, boom, go back,
Close that prison and turn it into.
And no gavel, because the people who run these parole revocation hearings are not lawyers. They're people who work for the parole board. So our lawyers are arguing legal cases to people, and no knock on people who aren't lawyers, right? But to people who don't have legal training. So we're citing case law, and it kind of falls on deaf ears. So, another thing I would like to see eventually in the parole revocation system is either judges making determinations about whether or not people should be released pretrial, or judges being more involved, or lawyers being more involved as hearing officers in some of these cases.
Yeah, and like I was talking earlier, like drug court was one of those big aha moments, and I can remember Judge Fullilove, and Judge Fullilove, when he dealt with his cases, he came while he was judicial. It was also a hard thing for him because he had an older brother who overdosed, and he would mention that to the person, and then he would connect with that person right there. Like, I understand where you are because I've had a brother who's been there, but we're going to have to get you on the road so you're not continually to appear before me, and you're headed to we want you to be headed to success and not back into the prison system. So and that was a lot, because you can see, when you sit and watch it, you can see like, oh, somebody gets me. It means a lot to somebody who's standing before somebody who's going to make a determination about, the next phase in their life.
Yeah.
So you said, I'm saying just like 1,400 people serving on the tech, which are 1,300 staff. So that's like one.
Yeah, well, now our parole revocation unit is very small. So
Yeah, it's like
yeah.
it's
That is definitely not the ratio. That would be really nice, but
yeah, and I could recall the lawyer when she put out the book, The New Jim Crow, and
Michelle Alexander.
yes, and how the court, how the prisons, instead of they outlawed the book ban so the prisoners couldn't read the book, because at one time you did come to prison and you could go to school, and I think we're back there now, but there was a gap when you weren't, but people were leaving and they were educated, and if you were actually to go back probably to the 80s and look at the people who came out who got their degree, they never even went back that way. But the ones who were not able to do some type of education or training, that's when they probably ended up doing what they were used to doing, and that was hitting those corners and things.
Yeah.
Given the changes that you're trying to envision and put in place, given the politically, I believe this is a loaded question, this politically schizophrenic state that we're in, right? Two things. What kind of opposition and resistance are you facing? And what kind of support are you getting from natural community stakeholders that we need to lift up and build on?
So, I have been super pleasantly surprised by the response to the idea of being this connection to services. The way I always talk about public defense is that public defense is public safety. And when I talk to lawmakers, I try to explain that what I mean by that is, we always think of police officers and prosecutors as people who've cornered the market on public safety. But we are the people who are meeting the people who are accused to have committed a crime, often 24 hours after that event has happened, at the moment of crisis. And we are the person that they talk to. And if we do it right, sometimes they tell us things that they don't tell their mother, and they certainly will not tell a judge, and they certainly will not tell some pretrial services officer. So we, as the people that are in that place and in that moment, if we are doing it right, we do hold the key to whether or not this person is going to succeed or not, or at least hold the key to being able to help them get there. And that's why this is not it is not warm and fuzzy, right? It is not putting our arms around everybody who's committed a crime and hugging them, even though I'm happy to do that. It's about making the public safer by making people who are largely going to return to the community well and better able to return to that community. And it's also massive cost savings. So I do try to talk to legislators, depending on who it is and depending on what they're interested in, talk to them about things like how the cost savings, lowering recidivism, lowering incidents of pretrial failure, like either committing a new crime on pretrial release or not showing up on pretrial release. But whether somebody is super down with everything that we want to do, or somebody is on the far, far other end of that spectrum, this idea of public defense as public safety is resonating. And I have had some really incredible conversations with lawmakers that are on both sides of the aisle about doing this work and what we need to do this work. Hopefully we'll be able to get these things done. We'll be able to get some funding for some of these things. We'll be able to lower our lawyers' caseloads in a way that they can really start engaging in the work this way. But I haven't met with anybody saying, oh, you just want to open the doors and let the streets run red. I really haven't. And I thought that a lot of what I was saying was going to be met with that response. So that has been really encouraging.
That's healthy. That's healthy. And of course, this is a space, a number of us, Newark is one of the center cities, for lack of a better way to put it, of the whole notion of putting the public back into public safety, right? And then with our particular focus on community-based violence intervention work.
And also, Jen, everybody, you know, from the top of New Jersey to the bottom of New Jersey, we probably could say everybody's family has been touched with somebody being incarcerated directly or indirectly. Somebody, you know, it's not foreign. It's not a foreign thing to people. People, you know, hear about whether it's a classmate, a family member, or something. So it becomes more realistic when they, you know, when they know that this person is incarcerated and they know the person. So.
And that's the other thing too. Like we also need to put the public back in public defense, right? We are an organization that hasn't been as community engaged as I think we should be. So you know, to your second point about we are going to be looking at ways to engage community, looking at ways to bring the community closer to the work that we're doing, sending people from our office into community organizations to talk about the things that you care about. So that's a little bit of a stay tuned because we haven't mapped, you know, I'm like 60 days in, we haven't mapped out everything yet. But it's a huge part of what we need to be doing is external engagement. So whether that is engaging with the press, engaging with policymakers, engaging with the community. The community, we should be a part of the communities that we serve in a way that we aren't now because of this historic kind of focus on case-based defense rather than, you know, client-centered defense.
And Jim, well, tell me about Vermont and Maine. What is it about those? I think those are the two states that where they actually allow the ballot box to come into the prison. So prisoners are voting, everybody is voting in those two states. What is it about those two states that they get that everybody should be entitled to be a part of the process of who represents them that the other states don't get?
So I mean, it's just local election law, right? Like we could change our election laws to allow people in prisons to vote. There are other states. I think it's not just those two. I think there are other states that are also allowing people who are currently incarcerated to vote.
Mm-hmm.
Then there also becomes issues with what is their home residence, right? They used to have that problem in New York where the home residence, it was like, you know, like Attica, New York.
Yeah, that became
right?
a big issue for Jersey because all the prisons are kind of located in South Jersey, but most of those persons come from North Jersey, so that was an issue.
Yeah, but for now, it's really important for us because now obviously people who are out can vote, who have prior records can vote,
Right.
that anybody who's capable of voting registers to vote, that they get out there and vote, and they vote for people that are supporting the kinds of policies that we're talking about and the kinds of policies that you're always talking about on this show.
Yeah, that was a big move for the state of New Jersey when those on parole and probation were allowed to vote, and I understand they tried to do it for the persons behind the wall, but that's where their compromise had to be. But
yeah, maybe someday.
They're pressing, you know, because now they have the representatives of those people on parole and probation who understand why they should be, and he's back. Jonathan, you okay?
Yep, I just tried to you know, choke a little less on camera. It's all good. This is like this is not. I did not get 2020 COVID. It was more like 2024 COVID, which is like real bad flu with bad flu hangover. So all good. All good. Don't worry about it.
Oh, you had the flu. You had COVID this week. Oh, okay.
Yeah. I came down with it this week. It's the danger of being a school teacher. Danger of being a school teacher. But I was listening, and the thing that's kind of astounding is that so-called progressive policy is really practical. And I think that with the work that we're doing in Newark, the work that's being done in New Jersey, the stuff that looks at like the public defender's office defends the public against the state. But that's also very practical in that it saves money. It's very practical in that it helps the people who are going to come back, right? Most of the people who come entangled with the system will come back to the community. And that what you're saying, the fact that you're saying that, hey, talking to Charles Boyer, Reverend Boyer, right? Like that thinking that goes into policy, it's bottom up.
Yeah.
Right? It is listening to the community about the things that work in the community. And this is not, and I think the pushback against, generally the pushback against, quote, liberals, progressives, is that it's top down, right? It is that the criticism is you have white people telling Black poor people, and often white people of a different class, different race, right? Telling and making policies that will never affect them. It seems like the thinking behind your office and the whole anti-violence ecosystem is based on answering that. It's based on policies have to be created and formulated by listening to the people who are advocating from a grassroots level up. And I think that becomes the real sea change in practical, progressive politics, because what you're saying is rooted in numbers. You're saying that you're working with UPenn and you're working with Stanford and you're working with them. It seems like, so you have both of those institutions saying, hey, this works, fund it, as in it's practical, progressive politics that's good for people. And I think that, like, what is your response to that? Like, is that how these policies are developed in terms of with the way you're thinking about it? How were these things come up with?
So I will tell you that, you know, in the past couple of years, so in the past, so I would say like 5 or 6 years, I had been doing a lot of work around these Miller and Comer resentencing cases. So juveniles who were convicted of life sentences at the time they were juveniles, and then we had an opportunity to go back under new case law and to advocate for them to be released if they could demonstrate they had been rehabilitated. So we started working with a community of people who had spent a really long time in prison and had changed dramatically because they went in as children and became adults. Many of them earned college degrees in prison. Many of them did other really amazing things with their time in prison. And representing them and helping many of them get out, and our office helping many of them get out, and watching them go into these networks and creating support groups, returning citizen support group, for example, in Newark. Amazing, right? There's a support group run by Antoine Henshaw, Transformative Justice Initiative down in Camden.
Right.
All formerly incarcerated people, all people who I remember when I represented my first juvenile lifer client. He handed me a list and he said, these are all the people who need to be out. And I'm really proud to say that we were looking at that list the other day, and I think there's only maybe 1 or 2 that are still in. And we've been able to get most of these extraordinary people out of prison. And they're doing these amazing things. And I learned a lot of lessons working with them. One of them is sometimes the movement needs to be led by system impacted people. And I need to know when to step aside and let system impacted folks lead. And so many of these ideas, some of them are, you know, some of these ideas have come from organizations like Partners for Justice. That's the shirt that I'm wearing. They're an organization that's doing a lot of holistic work nationally, and hopefully will be partnering with us down the line. But some is rooted in this work by formerly incarcerated people who are figuring out what they needed when they got out that didn't have, or they needed when they were in. And that was the biggest lessons for me, is that sometimes like a meeting in the corner of a church basement is so much more innovative and has so much more vision than anything we could be doing sitting around in a room in Trenton in the Hughes Justice Complex. So it's really listening to all of that. It's listening to community. It's listening to teachers working with kids in school, right, Jonathan? Like listening to the people in the community who have the ear of the community, and having the ability, humility, whatever you want to call it, to sometimes be like, I need to get out of the way and let other people lead.
participatory defense is driven by that principle.
Absolutely.
And we're trying to bring some. We're trying to see. We're a part of bringing that into New Jersey. And returning citizens is playing an important role in that.
And
Right?
one
you
of
said participatory defense. What is that? Like the term?
It's I don't want to get too ahead of
go ahead, go.
Because I want to bring them in at some point too.
Mhm.
It's a notion where, and there are two sides of the equation. Young folks going into the system or facing going in, folks coming out of the system after having done time, right? In a very holistic way, empowering the people closest to them to walk them through the needs and the demands and the challenges that they're facing coming in or going out of the system, right? So it trains folks close to the person who's facing the time, right? To actually advocate, right? Instead of some leader from some organization who's got a charismatic background, but who might be in the pocket of this elected official or that elected official, right? People are talking and standing up for themselves and for their loved ones, and they're trying to drive their humanity into the conversation of them being in court.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we have Damon Venable, who is a member of Returning Citizen Support Group. It does a lot of work with them. Damon, we just promoted Damon to be the head of, and I always, he has like such a fancy title that I always forget exactly what it is. And he always laughs at me because I'm like, what's your title again? But it's, he's been promoted to be the head of our, he's our public policy specialist and community engagement and public policy specialist. And he's working.
Listen to that.
Yeah, and he's now working in Trenton directly for me as my advisor on all of this. And he's going to be heading up all of our restorative justice initiatives as well as our participatory defense initiatives. So he just moved down to Trenton for this job maybe like 2 weeks ago. So he's another person to be great to have on because he can talk about how he's doing this for us.
And what's his name again?
Damon Venable.
Damon Venable.
Thank you. So as we're nearing the end of our time, we always have a customary question that you received last time that you were on our show.
So she's ready.
And we are yes. So you are ready as well. And it doesn't have to be the same answer as last time. It could be who has been inspiring you this week, inspires this conversation, inspires the work. But this is very much a hip hop influenced show. The spirit of everything that we do, it infuses. Who is your favorite hip hop artist, individual or group?
So it was funny because I was afraid of my answer until I saw the children. I'm going to call them the children. Until I saw the young people before, like going old school. And I was like, they were talking about Tupac and Public Enemy. They're stealing
your answer is your answer.
They're stealing the answers of the old people. No, I do like the classics. I love NWA. I love Public Enemy. And then when she mentioned Tupac, I was like, I haven't listened to Tupac in a while, but I need to put that back on. So.
Okay, cool. So the documentary was excellent. The documentary was excellent. Yes. So so thank you for coming on again. I'm really happy to hear the work that you're doing. And we'll continue to hear more of it. We'll have to have you back on soon. And thank you again.
Anytime you need.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Thank you, and feel better. Take care. Of yourself.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Right.
Good stuff.
Yep.
Good stuff.
So I think that was a great segment, right? Because I think that the work that's being done is so incredibly important. And again, every segment, I'm going to reemphasize when people are talking about elected politics doesn't matter. Doesn't matter who wins. It doesn't matter what they're thinking about, right? I don't know if this would have been possible, right? And again, this isn't to be like Democrats all good, Republicans all bad. Not at all, right? But there is, when you're talking about who will listen to local communities about the way to implement policies, the way to think about it, right? Who's going to listen to grassroots policies? Advocacy becomes important. And the way to and getting people to listen to you is important. And voting is important because each of these little policies actually deals with people's lives, right? The stuff that's being done in the office right now for the office of the public defender is stuff that's going to impact people's lives. People are going to have more or less time behind bars based on that. People are not going to be incarcerated based on that. People are going to get help for things they need to get help with based on that, right? People are not going to
say my line of work, put on the pathway to healing.
Right.
And it has a lot to do with a lot more people being educated about what's going on behind bars and those who are behind bars being educated so that they can educate their families and their neighbors and so on and so forth. So it's like each one teach one. As our lieutenant governor used to say, each one teach one.
Okay, and so I think that question, Zaid, we have. Hello?
We're getting some feedback.
Hold on.
So Caesar and Lisa, could you put your mute? Yeah, Lisa mute. So there we go. So
okay.
Come on when you're talking. Go ahead, Jonathan. I'm sorry.
Okay, so Zaid, you could introduce us to this segment as well, right? Like I think that this is really important for us and in talking about the Uhuru movement and Zaid.
And I'm glad to have Lisa Davis and Cesar Omar Sanchez from the Black is Back Coalition, and very important arm of the Uhuru movement. We were hoping to get Chairman Omali and Brother Charles Barron, and it's because there are two things that we want to especially lift up in this segment that's important to this work. One is that the Uhuru 3 is facing a trial date of September 3rd, right? And some things need to happen in community in solidarity between now and September 3rd. And if we do what we're supposed to be doing, we need to raise enough hell so those charges get dropped and go away, and September 3rd doesn't happen. The second is that right around the corner, now y'all know Malcolm centers everything that I do, right? April 12th is the 60th anniversary of Malcolm dropping his legendary ballot or the bullet treatise in Detroit, revolutionary take on an independent approach to employing the ballot. And of course, out of that will come the Lowndes County Freedom Organization out of SNCC, which was the Panther formation before the Black Panther Party, right? And some other important experiments with the ballot, independent of depending on either one of the two parties, right? The Uhuru movement is hosting an electoral school on the weekend of the 13th and the 14th, right after that particular anniversary. So those are two things that we want to make sure we absolutely lift up in this conversation. Lisa, of course, has been on a number of times, has been in our circles for a number of years. And I'm actually very, very glad that she found her place in voice in the Uhuru movement, because it speaks to her spirit and it speaks to some very important work that we all need to appreciate. So Lisa, why don't you come on in now? Talk about the Black is Back Coalition, where it fits in the Uhuru movement. Break down the Uhuru movement. Introduce us to Cesar, right? And let's talk about these two things that are coming up that are usually important.
Okay, great. And also, Brother Charles Barron did confirm that he would be on, and he said he'll be coming on. Hopefully, we will get this revolutionary warrior who has been about putting his words into action and living that life in terms of revolutionary politics, which we all need, because we would not be here without that, period. I am with Black is Back Coalition for Social Justice, Peace, and Reparations. Chairman Omali Yeshitela is the chair and one of the co-founders of that coalition. This is a coalition that consists of about 18 different organizations right now. And these are organizations that are primarily, we don't necessarily all see things the same way, but we are all united around the revolutionary politics of the Black liberation struggle, and that we need to come together as organizations around the Black liberation struggle to liberate our people. And one of the things that I am very proud that we have implemented, which is also, I think, one of the reasons why Chairman Omali Yeshitela and two other people with the Uhuru movement are currently facing 10 to 15 years in prison. And I want to be clear about this. This is under the Biden administration, the Democrats. And there were some things that the Congressional Black Caucus did that I felt that helped to set up the motion for this to happen. And I'll talk about that too. But anyway, this is the electoral campaign school that we had set up. And we set that up as a way to introduce revolutionary politics onto the ballot. We cannot just have the Democratic Party hijacking our movement and our thought process. And that is one of those things that unfortunately has happened. And we cannot do that. And this is regardless of whether somebody is a Democrat or Republican or even third party. But the reality is that most Black people who do vote are tied to the Democratic Party. And so we wanted to have these electoral campaign schools to introduce revolutionary politics, to put that on the agenda. We get into talking about how to run revolutionary candidates, how to support them. We talk about how to not just put people in office, but also how to get them out and how to hold them accountable. And we are very much about making sure that our people understand that it was not the ballot, it was not voting that advanced our struggles. Now, I'm not saying that we should not vote. I'm not saying that voting is not important, although the way the Black community uses voting, we don't use it as a tool of empowerment. It becomes a tool of disempowerment for us. But the reality is we didn't get the right to vote by voting for it. Chattel slavery did not end because people voted for it. None of the advancements in our community happened through the vote. It happened by people organizing on the ground. Revolutionary organizing on the ground is what happened. And unfortunately, many of us in our movement are moving away from that. So on April 6th and 7th, I'm sorry, not April 6th and 7th, April 13th and 14th, we are going to be having, I think it's our Brother Barron, Uhuru, there you are. I think it's our 6th or 7th electoral campaign school, and Brother Barron always comes to that electoral campaign school where we talk about and we put into practice revolutionary politics. And one of the campaigns that we are taking on and uniting behind is the uncommitted vote. But we are adding even more to this. We are saying that you've got to make them you got to make anybody that's going to get your vote, you got to make them take a stance against what's going on with the Uhuru 3. You got to make them do that. You got to make them say, stop funding these wars with Israel and Ukraine, and take that money that you put toward all these horrible wars all throughout the world, the Congo, Africa, Haiti, all over, that you fund reparations. You fund that. You take it to that. Also, free political prisoners. Leonard Peltier, critical that he be freed. He must be free. And also, Brother Cesar, that's how we met. He's a member of the Hands Off Uhuru Coalition, which is an anti-colonial movement around many of these issues, but also around making sure that these bogus charges get dropped, and that we also expose the corruption of the United States and of the Democratic Party as well as the Republican Party. And that's why I met Brother Cesar. Pro-Liberty had very strong, powerful brother, and of course, Brother Charles Barron, Uhuru. That's I'm giving you the short version.
So welcome.
Welcome back to Black Power about the people.
Thank you, Uhuru comrades. It's an honor to be on, especially with all you fighting soldiers out there. So I'm looking forward to the electoral politics school, you know, we really got to deal with power. Power is the great equalizer, as Chairman Omali Yeshitela always says. People don't care if you call them names. People don't care what your deep analysis. They could care less about that. But one of the things that they take pride in is being able to keep us out of power. So in East New York, we were able to win. Oh, for the last 21 years, we beat the powerful Democratic Party machine at their own game and was able to really beat them. And so that's what we're trying to build across the country at this electoral politics school under the leadership of Chairman Omali Yeshitela and the Black is Back Coalition, Lisa Davis and Betty Davis and all of us. We're trying to say to revolutionaries, let's win these local seats of power in the city councils across the country, in the state assemblies. Because the bottom line is that we're not going to have a great impact on the presidential election. I'm not voting for the lesser two evils. You know, I'm voting uncommitted in the primary and for Dr. Cornel West in the general when it gets to there. We're no longer voting for the lesser two evils. That game is played out, been there, done that, delivers nothing. So what we need to do is to build on a local level. Revolution is going to happen from the bottom up. And as we do other things, one of the areas that we might want to take control over is the electoral arena. And that's where we're going to go to a St. Louis, as we've done yearly, and tell people, run for local office in your local communities. Get the local power. We were able to do that in East New York, which is why we stopped gentrification. My beloved East New York is not gentrified. Harlem is, Bed-Stuy is, Crown Heights is, but all of these areas that has these sellout Black neo-colonial puppets of the Democratic Party, every community that is gentrified has been gentrified because Black elected officials allowed them in. Washington, D.C. used to be called Chocolate City. 70% Black. Now it's Marshmallow City because it's like only 40%, 42%. Atlanta used to be 70, 80% Black. With Black politicians in the city council, Black mayors, they were able to still gentrify these cities and these neighborhoods and bring in more whites. Only 42% Black in Atlanta now. So we want to stop that action. And we want to be able to do what we did in East New York, and that is to win these local seats where there's power. The city council determines who passes the budget, not the mayor. The city council determines what can be built on city-owned land, not the mayor. And the city council determines what can be done in city agencies. We want that kind of power. And that's what we delivered to East New York. 3 new $88 million schools, $110 million worth of park renovations, stop gentrification. There is none in my neighborhood. We have more Blacks. The Daily News, who can't stand me, had to confess and say East New York has the greatest increase in Black population than any other community in New York City. So that's what we're doing in St. Louis. We want to make sure we have power with the right Blacks in the right positions.
Why is it that people like you and the handful, right, of Black electors that dare to be independent and radical, and who've made the most impact by their daring, are the least emulated in the least studied in the least follow? Why is a Charles Barron an exception to the rule?
Well, that's because the rule
Take us to school. Take us to school, Charles. Come on.
Yeah, because the rule is that if you want to make it anywhere in the electoral arena, you have to kiss the ring of the Democratic Party if you're Black. So a lot of those Blacks, like New York State, is the New York State of neo-colonialism. The Attorney General, Tish James, Black. The head of the state assembly, Black. The head of the Senate, Black. I was saying Carl Hastie, and head of the Senate, Andrea Stewart Cousins, Black. The mayor of New York City, more blue than Black. He's a cop. The Speaker of the City Council, Black. The Public Advocate, Black. Borough Presidents, Black. District Attorneys, Black. Black faces in high places doesn't mean Black power. Matter of fact, Martin Luther King said that the Black community is angry at the white power structure for creating what he called Black politicians, these manufactured leaders. That's Dr. King. He called them manufactured leaders. And that's why they don't want to promote us, because we're not under their control. We're unbought, unbossed, unchained from the Democratic Party. They're angry at us because we use the Democratic primary as a strategy to win a seat of power. And we beat the most powerful Democratic Party organization in the country. And that's Brooklyn's Kings County Democratic Party organization. We beat them for 21 years. The last 2 years, it took them 21 years to get their seats back. They got them back. They have the council back and they have the state assembly back. But we have people we've trained, and we're going to get them right back in these seats of power. They don't want to promote us because they don't want to have anybody duplicate what we did. And that's why we have that electoral college or electoral school in St. Louis, so we can go across the country and say, brothers and sisters, here's the model.
So
Go
really,
ahead.
it's kind of like what you're saying, and I think it's so important that people like understand it, right? Because you're saying that there's so much of a call for identity politics, as in, I'm a Black woman, pick me, I'll represent the community. I'm a Black man, pick me, I'll represent the community. And an appeal to white people for Black people to pick them so that there'll be some representation, like whether it's vice president, whether it's like Supreme Court, whether it's like any of these positions, when someone's saying we need a Black woman in charge or a Black man in charge, right? What you're saying is stop.
Right.
We need some principles.
There you go.
That's right.
There you go. There you go. You know,
it's not who you are, it's what you do.
That's right. Dr. Osagyefo, Kwame Nkrumah, wrote a book, Neo-Colonialism, the Last Stage of Imperialism.
Yes, sir.
And what he was saying is that the new is to put a Black face in a high place to maintain white supremacy, white issues. And it's the same thing we've been fighting for a long time. Dr. Lonnie Guinier, who wrote the book Tyranny of the Majority, made her transition. She said some of us are descriptively Black, they look like us, and others are authentically Black, they are committed to us. So just by having a Black president, Barack Obama, you know what would shock y'all? I want to come back one day and just go over the budgets. The budgets of America under Bush, it was 25% poverty in the Black community. Under Obama, 26% poverty in the Black community. Under Trump, 23% poverty in the Black community. Under Biden, 20-something% poverty. Under all of those presidents, $800 billion for the Pentagon. Bush, Trump, all of them, the same budgets. So when you look at their budgets and you look at the amount of people deported under the Obama, they called him the chief of deportation. He deported more people. And look what happened in poverty. Poverty in the Black community, 25% under all of them. It may be lower now, but you remember when you do unemployment statistics, that's only based upon people who are receiving unemployment benefits.
Right. And
So if you're not receiving the benefits, you're not even counted. So the reality is that we have to get power. Power is the great equalizer. Racism becomes irrelevant when you got power. And as you said, my brother, it ain't about having the first black woman vice president, Kamala Harris. It's not about having the black president. Matter of fact, even Bush made Colin Powell the Joint Chiefs of Staff or the general head of the National Joint Chiefs of Staff. All of them appoint black people. So just appointing black faces, that's not how you measure success. Measure the success of poverty with the black masses, of unemployment with the black masses, of the homelessness with the black masses, the life expectancy of the black masses, the infant mortality rate of the black masses, access to health care for the black masses. You measure our success, our progress, but not how individuals progress, but how the masses progress.
Lisa Davis, I think you were about to say something as well.
Right. I just wanted to say that I don't know if people are aware of this, but there is an African American Mayors Association, which I wasn't even aware of that. But right now we're going through some extremely dire times in terms of that there is an active genocide going on right in front of our face. And it's not just in Palestine. Let's be clear. We know things going on in the Congo, all throughout. And the United States is at the center of it. It's unfolding right before our eyes with Palestine. And there's the African American Mayors Association, which immediately came out and made a statement on behalf of Israel, but they said nothing about the genocide. And just recently, they came out and made a resounding statement supporting Joe Biden and his State of the Union address. And I just have to say, when you look at most of these first of all, I don't see nothing about reparations on their website, first of all. But also when you look at many of these black cities, I would think that these black elected officials would be leading the way in terms of condemning what is going on, especially considering the history of the black liberation struggle and how we would not even be in office if it wasn't for that. And I have to say, I'm very disappointed in terms of how Newark has proceeded. They have not issued a ceasefire resolution. But also, if we just look at the fact that it was the Congressional Black Caucus that introduced a resolution calling for the Monitoring Malign Russian Activities in Africa Act, and this was early in 2022, which called on the United States government to monitor the activities of every black person throughout the world. You can look this up. Yes, and then 3 months later, the Uhuru movement was attacked. And also my brother Cesar, with the pro-libertad movement, he's been so instrumental and supportive because he's also very much a part of the Hands Off Uhuru coalition and organizing.
I want to bring Cesar into the conversation, right? Come talk to us, Cesar. Tell us about how you see this work, how you came into it, and the pro-libertad connection and whatnot. Pro-libertad has been steadfast over the years on the question of the release of Puerto Rican political prisoners, and the persistent question of Puerto Rico as a colony of the United States. See, right? We talk about colonialism is not a thing of the past. Political repression is not a thing of the past. Attacking on our liberties, creating new political prisons, coming after Uhuru is not a thing of the past. Jump in this conversation, Young G. Talk to us.
Well, first of all, I want to thank everyone here on this panel right now, everyone for inviting me onto the show. I think it's very crucial. We're definitely living in difficult times. I mean, the Pro-Libertad movement was actually organized in 1994. And one of the co-founders was Francisco Vergara, which sadly about 2 years ago, he passed away due to cancer. Pro-Libertad's mission has always been to free all the Puerto Rican political prisoners, and since 1994 and all the way to 2024, we have reached out. But Oscar Lopez Rivera was the last Puerto Rican prisoner who's been actually held at the time of 34 to 35 years incarcerated, and he was freed. Then Pro-Libertad actually shifted to free all the U.S. political prisoners held here, incarcerated, from the U.S. Empire, which unfortunately, sadly, we still have Mumia Abu-Jamal, we still have Leonard Peltier, we still have brothers that got out of jail, but sadly has passed away shortly, not even lived a year. Whether it's Albert Woodfox or Sequoia Odinga. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. But I mean, these are just some of the yeah. I mean, thank you. But I mean, these are just some of the revolutionary figures that have most likely has been forgotten, I think, in the mainstream media, and that's why the job is up to us. Then I look at the Uhuru 3, and I said it's funny that it seems to me it's gonna happen again. You have these revolutionary brothers and sisters, Omali Yeshitela, Penny Hess, Jesse Neville, and now they're possibly facing up to 15 years. It's sad, it's ridiculous, but make no mistake. What's happening with the Uhuru 3, it's going to happen to any political organization, whether you're from the left or right or center, independent, progressive, it don't matter. This is the beginning of something that I fear. We're actually heading towards a full-blown fascistic authoritarian regime. I mean, we have to be clear about that. Now, I know I've heard here on this panel about strategy, voting, and that's all good. And I think we should continue to pressure and hold these politicians accountable, hold their feet on the fire, call them out. It has to be a public outright. With everything that's happening with the Uhuru 3, what's happening in Palestine, what's happening with, and here's the thing that nobody even talks about no more. The Native Americans, the tribes, the nations, I would say, the Dakota, the Lakota, the Shawnee, the Pawnees, the Cherokee, the Cheyenne, the Comanche, all these nations that were systematically exterminated. But thank God we still have people that still the tribe that's still living to this day and fighting. One of the things they're fighting for is the Axis pipeline, the DAPL. These are just few of the things that we just got to keep on pushing. And that's why, we have to find some sort of a connection and keep building these solidarity movements. How we do it, it's your guess. Your guess is as good as mine. But I think that with the Palestine movement, I think that just kind of like really waking up the people. I mean, to epic proportion. We haven't seen movements like this. I mean, in decades. I mean, if you look back at the Occupy Wall Street, if you look at the Black Lives Matter protests, and then of course now the Palestinian movement, and it just keeps on. And these are just waves that just keeps on piling up. One of the things that the oligarchs and the plutocrats hate the most are these revolutionary movements of waves, because the waves is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and it has no choice but to keep on and thumping these greedy oligarchs. And ultimately, in the end, we have to kind of change and revolutionize this system. I think it's very important that to your listeners and to you and to your viewers here that's tuned in tonight, reach out to people. I mean, get involved. If you're really involved, try to get other people more involved. I mean, we got to use all our resources, social media, get on the public, get on the public radios, get on the news, editorial pieces. I mean, use your talents. If you're good in communicating, go out there and communicate. If you're good in graphic designs or web designing, use that, that's that talent, that technique for a greater cause to help.
Let me stop for a second, Cesar, because I want you to. There's somebody I want you to lift up, and one of the things that the Pro-Libertad got all of the Puerto Rican political prisoners out. That was some stellar organizing, right? And there was some other Puerto Rican forces too, but there was a clear united strategy that got our Puerto Rican political prisoners out. I want you to lift up Ana Belén Montes, right? Left to get out, right? And her story is a lesser known story in the realm of political prisoners, but is hugely important to the larger question of international solidarity that we're talking about, that links the Black liberation struggle, Puerto Rican struggle for independence, and the struggle and our ties to the Cuban Revolution. Lift up Ana Belén for a minute.
I mean, I don't believe has a bit of a long story there. I mean, there's a lot to cover there, but I mean,
It's radio lag. Give us the short version. Give us a little bit.
I know, because I know timing is very limited here. But I think, well, the thing I don't believe is really that she comes from a very conservative family. I believe she actually served in the military, and because of her outspoken, on Puerto Rico, independency, against anti-imperialism, and then of course there was other bogus charge that was actually thrown at her, and she went to jail. Of course, these are things that, I mean, when we did the campaign to free Anna Boleyn, she was, she kind of reminds us to keep things very discreet as much as possible. So, I mean, to respect her, I mean, I don't want to talk too much of it, even though she's out and free. But I mean, I think these are just some of the things when we talk about solidarity that's very important. That it doesn't matter whether you come from a very conservative lifestyle, whether you come from a liberal revolutionary. The bottom line is you got to make the connection, and you got to try to find common ground, and working there and getting there and then building something like that, it's actually beneficial for the movement.
Just some background for everybody's benefit. Some years ago, in the early 90s, there was the Cuban Five. 5 Cuban comrades who were doing intelligence work for the Cuban Revolution to protect the sovereignty of Cuba, who reported to the United States looming attacks of a terrorist kind coming from Cuban Americans here in the United States. The state turned around and criminalized them, and they did time for that, right? In the aftermath of that, someone who was an inside operative within the intelligence community of the United States, and I'm talking about Anna Boleyn now, also sees information that clearly is delineating hostility towards Cuba that was wrong, unprincipled, unmerited, and she had the audacity to break ranks from her very security entrenched position and to share that with Cuba in order to honor their right to their solidarity. And she faced 25 years and did better than 20 of those 25 years. She was recently released. So I wanted that to be lifted up because out of all the forces doing political prisoners work, Pro Libertad led that.
Yeah,
right? In addition to the others.
Yeah, and I also want to add there, Brother Zaid, and thank you for bringing up that and the Cuban Five. Actually, as a newly elected co-chair for the NNOC, which is the National Network on Cuba, which along with 86 brigadistas are traveling to Cuba this April 21st for 2 weeks for the Mayday Brigade, standing in solidarity
Best
with
time
Cuba.
to go to Cuba. I'm an old brigadata. I'm an old, it's the best time to go.
I don't have to tell you, Zaid, I'm not preaching to the choir. We all know, but the Cuban Revolution has always been the beacon of hope in terms of like bringing real social revolution in form. But I think with the Cuban Five, it's very important as well. I mean, a lot of people, especially the mainstream media, will use the Cuban Five as an example. Well, there was communist spies infiltrating the U.S. government to bring down quote-unquote democracy. When in fact, the Cuban Five was actually there in Florida for one purpose, was to infiltrate a bunch of death squad paramilitary, the Omega 7s, the Alpha 66, the Brothers to the Rescue, this so-called unquote nonprofit organization, which we all know is the puppet of the U.S. government. And these organizations have tried decades, and I mean decades, since after the Cuban Revolution in 1959 to try to topple the Cuban Revolution. But unfortunately, the Cuban Revolution, there's people, they stood their ground and they continue to fight despite the economic blockade they're still going through. And so I mean, I just want to end it with this note. When we talk about solidarity, it's very important. I think that word solidarity gets tossed around too much, I think, sometimes. We got to understand the true meaning of solidarity, that's standing with our brothers and sisters, both current, present, and the future, because we have to think long term. And once you're in this movement, you're in this for the long haul, and I'm hoping to take this to the day, to my grave, and pass it on to all my brothers and sisters. That comes after us too. Thank you.
I also want to introduce, we have on the Newark's ambassador to hip hop. I always want to give him that formal introduction. An incredible artist, hip hop artist in his own right. Someone who is mentioned by everybody who is within the game, from Chares One to many others who know about things that he did, what he and what he stood for, throughout that whole time, right? So Hakeem Green, well, welcome to the conversation.
Peace,
Always
everybody.
proud to have you with us, brother.
Thank you, John.
And just having you, jump in with a question or something you want to say.
No, I'm just actually just listening, learning, taking notes. The key word is organization, and as effectively as we can organize will determine how successful we are in achieving our goals. So one thing that our people collectively lack is, unfortunately, is organization. That's political power comes from how well we're organized and how well we can leverage the folks we put in power. But outside of that, I'm learning. Brother Cesar is really schooling me, dropping some jewels. Of course, Baba Zaid is always dropping jewels. So, in that sense, I want to kind of stand back and listen some more to this conversation.
Barron jumped up, came out, but I know he's trying to come back in because I could see that. For both of our guests, the Uhuru 3. I know we talked about it, but I want you. We only have about 8 minutes left in this segment. I want you to talk about what happened, why it's important, because there are so many different things that we focus on. But it seems like right now, that seems like the most important thing to focus on. In that, this is about 3 people who are being federally prosecuted for something that seems outrageous. It seems like federal prosecutors are wasting money and time, and it's just, we got to be like, no, stop it. We all know the person you need to prosecute.
They're creating an atmosphere of intimidation.
Yes.
It's not wasting money. They know exactly what they're doing.
Exactly. And I want to be very clear about this. This is really an issue of freedom of speech. They are being charged because they spoke out against the United States government as it came to Russia and this proxy war with Russia via Ukraine. They're not charged with weapons. They're not charged with embezzlement. They're not charged with attacking nothing like that. Everything that they are charged with pertains to what they said. Freedom of speech, and it is outrageous. They are facing 10 to 15 years in prison. The trial date begins September 3rd.
What happened? Talk to us. What's going on?
Well, the trial date begins September 3rd in Florida. Now, tomorrow, they're having a very important webinar. I want to tell everybody to please go to handoffuhuru.org. Uhuru is spelled Uhuru, but go to handoffuhuru.org. Please register tomorrow. They've been given many updates and everything. We are organizing locally. One of the things about Cesar, and I'm so glad that he was able to participate, we're local. We're like in the Newark area. And it just goes to show that this is so important, that this is an anti-colonial struggle and everybody must come together and organize. But when people ask me to get into more of the details about what's going on, this is so ludicrous. But it really boils down to that. And the United States, thank you so much for that. And the United States government has literally said that they were working for the Russians, although Chairman Omali Yeshitela has been on the front lines of this movement for over 60 years. They are saying he interfered with elections. And I know that that's a direct hit at the tremendous work that the Black is Back Coalition has been doing in our electoral campaign schools. We were the ones, or the African People's Socialist Party had run candidates, I think in 2016 or something like that. But long before Marian Anderson began to talk about reparations in elections, they ran candidates on a platform of reparations for the Black community, and they made international news. So although they didn't win, but they were very effective in terms of their strategies, and they ended up making international news for that. You all may have remembered hearing several years back when some foolish person running for office in Florida said, you already got your reparations with Barack Obama. That was because of the work that the Uhuru movement under the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party were doing on the ground. And that came out of the electoral campaign school. in terms of the Black is Back coalition. And if you look at the Department of Justice, one of the things that they said is that while Russia was interfering with our elections through Omali Yeshitela, and the charges and the indictment are written in such a scurrilous way as to disempower us. It can't be that we were doing these things on our own, or that the chairman was doing these things on of his own. No, it is talks down to us so badly. It almost, it would be farcical if it wasn't so serious. But they claim that no, the Russians put them up to do everything, and that the Russians were sowing discord. So in other words, if you speak out against police brutality and racism, and if you talk about your Black liberation, and you're against colonialism, and you want to hold these elected officials, you want to hold them accountable, you can't be saying that as a Black person. You don't have the brains to say that. You have to say that because you are a puppet for some white entity. It's really condescending and degrading. And literally, it is about what they said. But we also have to, tie this all in together, because there are things going on in New Jersey with federal lists that people are being put on, and people are being watched. If you say this, if you say that, you have the federal government investigating you. And many of you know me locally in the Newark area. So if I'm with the Black is Back Coalition, and if they're targeting the chair of the Black is Back Coalition, well, they're looking at everybody. That. Yeah. So, but it comes down to, we have to create the world we want to live in. We cannot go back to doing life as we have been doing. It is imperative that everybody to look at this, to look at these times, to make these links, to link them together, and to say, how is this able to unfold on our watch? On our watch. We have to change. We've got to change this.
If I could quickly interject here.
That last thing you said right there is telling. So this is not 1967. This is 2024. We're talking about things happening in real time, on our lifetime, on our watch, on our perch, in our face. Are we going to resist the oppression? Are we going to be the answer to the question? Or are we going to capitulate and kowtow and allow ourselves to be co-opted and continue to be exploited? That's really just what it comes down to, without a doubt. I just want to say this too. Of course, we were really looking forward to having I've been watching Omali for decades. I've been watching him for a long time. I used to follow the Uhuru movement from its earliest days, back in the early 80s. I used to also often visit what was the Tree of Life bookstore in Harlem. And one of the spaces in which the Uhuru movement has been most consistent about in all of their work is the legendary newspaper, The Burning Spear, right? I met Omali several years later. It's not at all surprising to me that they would come under this kind of attack, right? This background. I'm bringing this back to our local stuff and the hell that y'all see me raise around the question of police brutality. Remember the case of Tyron, what's his last name? Tyron, oh God.
No, I know that.
Lewis.
Tyron Lewis. Right?
Tyron
Lewis. Shot to pieces by the police in St. Petersburg, Florida, right? But what happened in the aftermath, right? And I'm saying this from somebody who was a child of a community whose uprising was armed in 1967. I'm from Plainfield, New Jersey, right? When the Uhuru movement did people's tribunals calling out the officers involved in calling out the police, they came under live fire by the police. But guess what? The most discounted elements in our community, right? Our boys in the hood, our knuckleheads, our bangers took stock of what was happening at that particular moment and turned around and all of the shotties that they got that they had been using on each other, that they had sense enough not to sell back to the white man, they turned around and started blasting on those pigs and literally saved our organizers' lives, right? It's an important armed uprising that definitely does not control, but by virtue of the presence of the work of the Uhuru movement in St. Petersburg, it's not at all surprising that this will come back around at a time like this when we, the question of fascism, we're not talking about fascism just from the Republican Party. Fascism is from the state.
Right.
It's from the state.
And it never left. And we know this from history back, right? Like, I know that we are at the end of this particular segment, and wanted to know that we are definitely going to have you back in the short order, because we have to have you back really, really soon, because we need to spend another segment on the Uhuru 3, just because, right? We know that trial's happening on September 3rd, you said?
Yeah, it was the 3rd of September.
We're going to talk about this. We're going to spend some time on this every week. We're going to spend a little bit of time on it every week, and we're going to plan another show dedicated to it, like within the next, in the next few weeks, right? But we're going to have some conversation about it, just to remind people about what's going on, because this case is a case of free speech, right? No matter how you feel about aid for Ukraine or whatever, there's no way that an 80-year-old man should be in jail, or
82 years old.
people, right? 3 people, right, who are our elders, should be prosecuted for having an opinion that says, no, we shouldn't give money to Ukraine, right? That is a
Russia saying that. Let's talk about what they said. Hold up. Russia's history in Africa is fundamentally different from the United States history in Africa.
That is true.
That's one. Number two, the United States provoked what became the Ukrainian war by kept pushing and expanding NATO, being told by the Russians that you were threatening our sovereignty, and it goes, but so much of that stuff we gonna take, right?
And
that's what got them under.
And the wild thing is that opinion you can read in Foreign Affairs by people who are mainstream foreign policy advocates, who are realists, who are like, yeah, Ukraine messed up, right? I mean, because they and the realists who are like, look, Ukraine messed up because Ukraine pissed off a neighbor that was big. It would be like Cuba doing that, right? And these are mainstream right-wing conservative, mainstreream U.S. rah-rah foreign policy people, right? So they're like, it's just no. I read foreign. I'm a debate coach. I read Foreign Affairs. That exact same opinion is there. That exact same opinion is being said, right?
He was one of the first ones to say that almost immediately after Russia went into Ukraine. He was one of the first ones. And it's interesting about TikTok, because I remember, I was posting these videos on TikTok, and those videos began to just explode. And as you know, they want to shut TikTok down. You know that. But I remember that, because I'm like, my gosh, look, and all these comments where people were saying, because one of the things, and I wasn't even aware of this, but he was emphatic that Russia never enslaved any African people. Russia didn't participate in the dividing of Africa. Russia never did any of those. And make no mistake about this, we are not talking about that we want to be colonized by anyone. So it's not even about saying that, oh, Russia is so perfect or whatever. We want complete liberation, period, with a T at the end. Period. Whether in Africa, we want complete control of our resources, but we're going to speak truth to power. This is the issue is colonialism. And Omali Yeshitela, and there are so many great revolutionary freedom fighters that I have been so influenced by. Viola Plummer being one of them, the D12 movement. But Omali Yeshitela,
the 12 movement brought us together as soon as the attack went down. We were all in principle about a united front against fascism. We put that united front together immediately at the hands of our comrades from the December 12 movement. Right on it.
So to close this segment out, we always get to that last question. Who is your favorite hip hop artist, individual, or group? Who applies to this situation? What is the music that is most like revolutionary to you that you listen to now?
What artist is inspiring you while you do the work? Individual or group?
Well, I'm gonna say my answer that I say all the time. Well, Marvin Gaye, definitely. Marvin Gaye, what's going on? But also Stevie Wonder. Yes, I'm from that generation. But still, one of Stevie Wonder's song, The Front Line, they had me standing on the front line, and I'm sitting up there listening to that when I was a child. I'm like, oh my God. But it was so powerful. And Marvin Gaye's What's Going On just said it all. And of course, I haven't listened to the radio much since then. But I'm gonna get better with it. I'm gonna come with somebody relevant, somebody current next time. I promise you that.
All right.
I don't believe you, Lisa. But Omar. Brother Omar.
Well, when it comes to hip hop artists, in the '90s, I would say, I mean, there's a combination of a lot of it. But I mean, to me, it would be Chares one.
Okay.
To me, he is the king of it all. His lyrics, his profound message, his philosophy. Actually, one of his songs, my philosophy.
My philosophy.
It's powerful. It's Then of course you have other rappers as well, Public Enemy. It just goes on and on. But I mean, I like the classics. I love the classics. I love Marvin Gaye. I listen to old school jazz, Coltrane. Believe it or not, yes, I do listen to jazz, no matter how.
I'm a jam old jazz.
Some people. I mean, it's. I listen to all various of music that hits.
Omar, you have to go to Netflix. Omar, you have to go to Netflix. There's a documentary with Biggie, and he lived and Hakeem may know who the jazz artist was, but there was a jazz artist that lived in his neighborhood, Biggie was. Go ahead, and he.
Bradford Marcellus, probably.
Who was it?
Bradford Marcellus.
Bradford Marcellus was teaching Biggie, about the drums and yeah. So you're not too far. Biggie, a lot of his beats were inspired by jazz.
Yeah.
And Hakeem Green is old KRS-One on the regular. When he gets up in the studio, look out.
All right. And thank you so much for coming on. And we got to get you back. We're going to have you back soon. Thank you. Always an honor to have a conversation, man.
Yes,
always.
I might come to St. Louis. I'm looking at that real serious.
Right? Omar, when you come back, you have to talk more about solidarity and help us and understand the importance of solidarity. It's not a fly-by word. It's something that we really need to embrace and understand.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Uhuru.
All right. So we are at the last part of where we're talking about like some things in hip hop. We talked about solidarity just now. It looks like there's one person who's in need of some solidarity right now. Oh my gosh.
Man, let me tell you.
What's going on with Mr.
Let me tell you. Compared to the conversation we just left up out of, this is just so trivial.
It is.
It's just so trivial, and it's upsetting. Go ahead, John. I'm sorry.
But is it trivial, really?
Yeah.
Because like one of the things that to try to get a little deeper into the conversation, right? All the stuff that you're hearing that is wild, outrageous, right? Like that seems to be going on. People soon.
Well, I don't know, Hakeem. Is it wild and outrageous to you?
Well,
I mean, yeah. I mean, he's definitely wild and outrageous.
I mean,
it's crazy. Well, finish the question, Jonathan. I want you.
Yeah, I was like, it just seems all the stuff that is just wild and outrageous, right? The reason why, like, I called you up today to have a conversation about it, right? Mm-hmm. And the reason why is because this whole thing reminded me of stories that you told, right? In terms of choices that you'd have to make when you were coming up in the hip hop business in the 90s, right? Mm-hmm. You talked about conversations with record execs because it seems like the undercurrent of this conversation is there's an entire group of people who are churning out culture for us that have nothing to do with the culture for us.
Exactly.
And that and the same conversation we had before, which is that we get representation, and there's this Black representation that works, that is not necessarily giving things that are representative of us. We also had a conversation about how policies from the bottom up work, right? It can't be top down, has to be bottom up, right? Because the policies have to come from the people who are actually affected by the laws. Now, we had that conversation with the public defender's office. We had that conversation with the first people here when we're talking about the Newark Anti-Violence Coalition and the Office of Violence Prevention, right? So we've been having these conversations all night on a political level, right? And so I kind of anticipated this because this has been a theme all along. But I was thinking when we're talking about the situation that's here, it's all these circuses, right, that are benefiting individual people's lifestyles. But these individual people have their lifestyle because they're supposed to culturally, not electorally, not politically, but culturally represent us.
Right. Well, big brother Daruba Ben Wahad teaches us everything's political.
That's right.
Everything's political. It's all about politics, power, your relationship to power, and how I can keep you away from the channels of power. And having the pleasure and honor of being able to talk to Ozzie Davis, Ruby D, Harry Belafonte, Gil Noble, Bob Law, having discussions about hip hop culture, the music industry, how the music industry was taken. Well, our political power that existed, the music industry as a expression of the cultural dynamic that was happening in the 60s. The culture shifted. The music started representing what was being said and what was happening in the streets. And artists chose to vocalize that message, and program directors at independent record labels and independent Black radio, independent DJs and promoters and messaging, having control over the message. That was very impactful for galvanizing our people nationally, is what really made the civil rights movement go. And in 67, I believe Dr. King addressed the National Association of Black Broadcasters and thanked them for being that that beacon, that megaphone to push that message that we needed out. And then shortly thereafter, Clive Davis has the Harvard study on Black music with the sole purpose of trying to figure out how to take not only the message from us, but the proceeds that our independent distributions, like we was making a lot of money. Actually, the majors had a minority
Clive Davis, the nice white guy, was trying to do some of that? He was trying to rob us?
Yeah, of course. At CB, while he was at CBS. This is early 70s. How do we wrestle this message away from Black people, and at the same time wrestle the economics away from Black people? The independent Black radio record labels collectively had a huge share of the entire market. You know, we controlled it. We got the proceeds from that. And you took it from us by throwing money at a select group of individuals. A lot of times these select group of individuals are immoral. They're debased. They're selfish. They're greedy. They live lifestyles that prevents them from having a clear conscience, prevents them from really understanding what the people need. And when you look at Clive Davis, you know, one of the greatest artists of all time, if not the greatest of all time, Whitney Houston. He's responsible for Whitney Houston. He was her mentor. He was her, you know, he's the guy who discovered her, raised her up in the music industry, put on all her big play. That was Clive Davis.
That's right.
The Grammy party where she died in the hotel. Every year, Clive Davis does the Clive Davis Grammy parties, like the biggest party during the Grammys. Whitney Houston is dead upstairs. Clive Davis has the party anyway. The show must go on. And how did she die? Drugs. You know what I'm saying? So when you look at Puffy, how did Puffy get his money? Clive Davis.
But I thought, like, I can remember, at least when they showed the movies about Puffy, and they will always have him as the artist who represented people who wanted them to be clean. Like you see in the scene when he's selling Biggie, are you sure you're ready to go back out there in the streets and no more? They always presented him in the movie as a person who wanted the artist to be straight, putting all the bad things behind and making sure he's ready to present a clean, a person who's left everything behind and he's going forward with a straight and narrow reputation, if you will.
Well, it's business, and you want to create the product that's going to generate the finance. So you want to do that. But when you get behind the scenes, it's still the entertainment industry. It's still debauchery. It's still drugs, sex, drugs, rock and roll, sex, drugs, and hip hop. Like that's what it is. And it's real easy to get caught up in that, especially like when you look at a person like Puffy, who was involved in these City College tragedy. Was that 1990, 91, where it was a stampede and 7-8 people died and it was his event. It was him, Heavy D, Jessica Rosenblum, Stressica, we call her. But Puffy being kind of the one that was held responsible, the weight of that being directly connected, the deaths that happened during that, the responsibility, you just don't walk away from that. I mean, you could play it off, keep a smile on your face, you could dance your way through it. It's lights, camera, action. Okay, cool, let's rock. But everybody has a conscience, everybody has a spirit, everybody has a soul, and that type of stuff weighs on you. And you look at what happened with the Biggie murder and the Tupac controversy, Tupac's murder, like just all of the death, all of the tragedy, all of it creates energy. And vampires use that energy to propel themselves.
Malcolm called
vampires use that energy to push themselves. But you still, like I say, if you're making money doing the devil's work, don't expect the children of God to defend you.
So
hold on,
just to read an excerpt.
Lift up what you posted.
Say it again.
He's having a call.
You want Jonathan explain what he's posting?
What he's posting here on the screen is dovetailing exactly what you're talking about. I want folks to see that and to be able to come back to it to cite it.
I posted this in the comments, and this is from Vibe magazine. They referenced the Harvard study that you're talking about. They're talking about Black Music Month, right? And they're talking about how it started with Clive Davis, and they're giving this history. And this passage from the article cites exactly what you're talking about, man. That's why I love having you on. You're teaching me stuff, right? Because I didn't know about
it. The part in red, Jonathan?
Major labels realized they needed to get on that, but they weren't sure how, with the exception of Atlantic. The majors and their affiliates were failing miserably at breaking more than one or two Black acts because they didn't know what to do. White executives love to ignore what Black folks tell them to do about Black things until another white person confirms it with some data. So in 1972, Columbia Records, CBS, specifically new president Clive Davis, commissioned research from the Harvard Business School. The study of soul music environment prepared for a Columbia Records Group, otherwise known as the Harvard Report, was delivered in May 1972. The report summarily told Columbia that they were late to the game and missing money, and outlined steps for them to catch up to the market share. namely adding dedicated Black music divisions and Black executives who knew how to promote the music. Columbia did as ordered. A label created a Black music department, partnered with Philadelphia's storied Gamble and Huff, and established the Black joint venture model with Philadelphia International, and bought into Stax Records. That went south almost immediately, but that's another story. That's interesting because I think that there's a lot of I didn't know that, right? I didn't know the extent to which what you're talking about in terms of, is not a neo-colonial model in terms of one in terms of the way we were talking about it before, but it is, right? It's
sure.
It is a way to both mine culture, right? Because culture is mining.
That's right.
And getting value from that culture, right? By getting representatives of that culture that now you pay and now you can control to, mine money. So it really is interesting because
we get jobs, they get control.
Exactly.
Right.
Bingo.
Right.
We get jobs, they get control. They never want to give us ownership, right? Which was Puffy's beef with Diageo, the spirits company that owned Ciroc, that Puffy had to deal with. So in the deep dive, that Puffy wanted to redo his deal and wanted ownership. They didn't want to give him ownership. So Puffy went public in calling them racist and a plantation, and they just want to keep Black people in a certain position. Now, mind you, Puffy's deal was incredible. Like, you've never seen a deal like the deal he got. He made billions of dollars off of Ciroc, right? But he's saying, if I can make $1 billion, how much am I making you? I want to. I save this brand. I am the brand. People associate Ciroc with Puffy. I want part ownership. They didn't want to give it to him, so he ran a play, cried racism, and people believe that it's actually Diageo footing the bill for this media blitz on Puffy. There's all these investigations. They got private detectives on the case. They're the ones looking to destroy him because he sought to destroy them.
Okay, so this is their payback. Okay.
That's the rumor. I can't substantiate it. It's just, it's speculation by a lot of folks who they know, like they would know what's going on.
But it's also one of those things that ultimately it's like it doesn't involve us, but it doesn't like this whole representation thing, right? Like it goes both ways, as in someone could be like me, I don't know, I don't know what the what individual artists do, right? Like the interesting thing you brought up about when Puffy, those 8 people were killed. Ed Riley, right, founded a small magazine called the College Entertainment Review right around that time. The first interview Puffy gave after that was with that magazine. Me, Bashir, and Ed Riley, all a part of that. Ed interviewed him. I believe Bashir interviewed him. Calvin interviewed him. I edited the interview. And Terry Williams, the public relations person, put that interview out as the first interview that he did since then, and gave that interview to a series of other people who interviewed him afterwards. Right? Yeah. She used that interview as a basis for getting him a lot of other interviews and rehabbing the reputation. Right? That was way back. That's 90s. That's College Entertainment Review stuff. So that's real interesting.
You got access to that interview? Can I get it?
Yeah. So Ed has. Yeah. You could talk to Ed. Ed also has all that stuff. That, whatever. So
to go back and read it now.
Conversation. But reading it, I think I have a copy of the magazine. I can give you that as well, because the edited stuff was great. We have that. We have the edited stuff. The magazine, we have like about 5. I think I got like 5 copies. Ed has like maybe 10, 15 copies of it. But definitely, at some point we should put this up. But yeah, man, next time you're in Newark, I'll make sure you get a copy of it, because I think I have like 3 or 4 copies of that particular magazine with that interview in it.
Right. So it's like these people are vampires, John. These people are really like they are energy suckers, and they're about, you know, causing the spectacle so you can push a whole nother agenda forward. You know, and that's what we're witnessing right now. It's another spectacle, and there's something else being pushed behind this spectacle. What it is, we have yet to see. I can't quite figure it out, other than, you know, dude is messy, dude is sloppy. If you hang out in the cesspool, you're bound to get some doo-doo on you. Right now, the cesspool is upside down, and he's swimming in it.
Right.
And when you say dude, and when you say dude, you're referring to Puffy.
Yeah, I'm saying, you know,
Yeah.
if you hang around, if you hang out in the porta potty, it's dirty in there, fam.
Right.
Filthy. And he, you know, somebody decided to tip it over on him.
Yeah, but also I think that goes with how we are talking about defining culture, right? Like one of our guests today, young recent college graduate, they were and two of them, and they talked about the hip hop they listened to. They were talking about old school, and she was like, I don't really listen to that. Most of the new stuff, because she's like, she called it toilet water, right? You talking
exactly.
about
there you go.
She called it toilet water, right? And I was like, wow, right? But I think that when we talk about policy has to be bottom up in order to be responsive, in order to be like life affirming, good for like the population. I think the same is true of culture, right? The things that we are consuming are created not with our best interest at heart, right?
And not at all. And that was, you know, it's not mentioned in that piece of the article, but that was a part of the purpose of the Harvard study, right? It's about finances, but it's also about controlling the message. So if you notice, like, you know, they created what's called the Black Music Department, right? And then, you know, the Black Music Department became the Urban Department.
Right.
So what they did was took the black out of it. Now anybody can do it. And now we get to decide what hits, what doesn't hit. There's certain messages they don't want from us. You know, there's certain messages that, like, I tell the story of my meeting at Def Jam when we're playing in the music, and he's like, you're never gonna get signed here because y'all not locking down the block, y'all not in the street. Like, you know, how do I sell this? Where our focus is certain messages to get into certain markets to keep perpetuating a certain context. And we've bought in lock, stock, and barrel, and that's all we're getting right now. Is that serves the purpose of keeping us unpoliticized, keeping us mesmerized by things that don't actually benefit us. Where we have the Public Enemies, the KRS-Ones, the X-Clans, the Channel Lives. We represented a certain flavor of culture that people could accept and buy into, but we were going to elevate your consciousness. We were going to point out what you should be looking at, who you should be listening to. The other thing I gotta say, 2 years ago, Puffy tried to present himself as Black leadership.
Right.
He had a whole political thing that he was creating. I thought that was the worst thing in the world because I knew he was so filthy. I didn't know he was this filthy, but I knew that he was filthy enough that he represented, you know, immorality. You know, he doesn't have ethics. It's about get money. That's it. It's get money. He tell you in the music, get money. That's not Black leadership. We can't have artists are not Black leaders.
Right.
Artists are not Black. I don't consider myself a Black leader. I consider myself an artist that speaks and directs you to who is Black leadership. Black leadership is what we do every single day fighting against this beast. Black leadership is about being accountable to the masses of people. You can't be accountable to the masses of people, but it's about my dollar, and you're selling alcohol, and you're selling even weed, madism. I'm very clear as to my association with cannabis and how I have to be very careful about how I present myself in certain environments because people would knock me. And I can't present myself as the answer. Yeah, but you smoke weed. You're right. And that's not, we don't need our kids going to school high. I mean, that's a bad thing. So, you know, artists shouldn't be positioned as Black leadership. And I saw that happening with Puffy.
and I thought it was just like 50 years of hip hop, and then Puffy was given an award. When he had all his children and he accepted an award, I can't think, but it was an award for all the work he's done in the industry and everything. And then like it seems like immediately after that, little by little, it started coming out in little pieces, and then it got bigger and bigger, and then it leads up to what happened the other day about and it's just like, wow, and all these, and then, and also just looking at the stories, like now all these stories are popping up, but there are even stories from like the Justin Bieber, how he was treated, but that was a story from like several years ago, but now it's on front news today. And it's just they're just pulling everything out to it. Yeah.
It's vicious. And we don't, it's like, I'm the conspiracy theory dandada. I've grown up and I've matured and I've put conspiracy theory world as in a certain box. However, a lot of the things they were saying in these conspiracy theory books, it come up and be true. It's like, yo, you can't, so there is a, Hollywood. What is Hollywood? Hollywood is the wood of the holly tree. Well, what's that? That's the magic wand. Merlin's magic wand was made out of holly wood. So then what is Merlin? Look how Merlin looks. Who does Merlin? Does Merlin represent? We didn't create the character Merlin, right? This is them telling us this is Merlin. This is who he is. This is what he does. Well, who does Merlin resemble? And what is Hollywood? And why is it magic? Is it magic and illusion? What's the purpose of getting people caught up in illusion? To program them. Like the magic is created here.
The markets.
So, when I saw that acceptance speech by Puff, and he had thanked like 5 people, and he thanked TD
when he got
Jakes.
the award.
Yeah, he thanked TD Jakes. And then he thanked Cassie. When he thanked Cassie, he was like, I just want to thank Cassie, for holding me down in them dark times. So I was with my mom. And I was like, as soon as he said that, I said, Ma, if I was TD Jakes, I'd call Puffy up right now and be like, yo, please do not say my name in anything dealing with the nonsense. Don't attach me to that. I can't. Who I am and what I represent to the people can't be misconstrued. No, you can't say that. If that's his spiritual guide, I'm saying, Ma, it's it looks all fly, but I'm telling you, it's not a good look. 2 weeks later, Cassie thing hit. 2 weeks after that, TD Jakes getting swallowed.
Yeah. No pun intended.
Yeah.
No pun intended.
No pun intended. So I'm just saying, you got to be careful who you associate yourself with. If you position yourself as leadership, you can't attach yourself on principle. Right. I can't do that. Why? Because I represent, not that we can't talk offline, I can't counsel you, and I can't be a spiritual. That's not what that's saying. That's saying when you're saying Cassie for holding me down in them dark times, I don't want to be attached to that. Don't say my name.
It's that hard script. It's that hard scripture that says, "Don't let your good be spoken evil of." Don't let your good.
It looks like you should have paid her twice as much 2 days earlier.
DJ Rhino said, "Caught in a spell, Hollywood." And we want to tell, it's that time.
Shout out to DJ Rhino.
And DJ Rhino's baby girl, is her birthday yesterday.
Happy birthday! Happy birthday to DJ Rhino's daughter.
Happy birthday!
Yes.
Absolutely.
Another DJ coming up. His daughter is spinning. She's still spinning. She's on those. She's really doing some good work. Her DJ on the 1 and 2, right? So.
All right. Well, we have reached our time, but I thank you for coming out tonight, man. I appreciate it.
Always love the invitation. Thank you so much.
And Hakeem, you got to come out more. And then I guess we're gonna leave with the cliffhanger. They said Jay-Z is next, and I don't know. What do you think?
Everybody's saying that.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll wait till you come back and let us know.
Crazy.
Yeah.
It might drop. It might drop before next Friday. We might.
Oh,
Nah.
wow.
And we got to do a midway, a midweek
It's
show.
like I hope not, because
I hope not.
I was very critical of Jay-Z throughout the extremely. If you selling crack to people, I'm just looking at you crazy. You know what I'm saying? And he built the empire selling the image of I'm that guy. However, in the last 15 years, he's done a bunch of things that's like salute to Jay-Z. So, I think him and Beyonce, I know they got their, the Illuminati, and they got their thing. I get it, but they do a lot of great work in a lot of great ways. So,
Yeah, the only reason why I'm going to say that, and I'm gonna say this right now. Now, I could be really, really wrong, but there's only one reason why I think that it's not going to drop on Jay-Z and Beyonce, right? It's not going to drop on them, and that's because I think it would have already dropped on them when he got close to Obama, because Obama didn't get close to Puffy like that. Obama got real close to Jay-Z and Beyonce, so much so that Cuba stuff, like it was almost like Jay-Z and Beyonce helped.
Beyonce does a Super Bowl with a tribute to Malcolm and the Black Panther Party.
Right. But I mean, like, I'm talking about.
I don't know the cowgirl, but I remember that shit.
But the cowgirl is deep too.
During the 50th anniversary of the Black Panther Party, she came out dressed as the Black Panther Party with the man. Listen, how can
you? Yeah,
I can't even hate no more. I can't hate.
Yeah, but also my prediction is when that thing went down with Cuba and they went down there on vacation and they literally helped. Like it seemed like they helped open up because right after they came back, Jay-Z released Open Letter, blasted two U.S. senators. After he blasted two U.S. senators, Obama was able to open up relations with Cuba. And remember, for those 2 years, that people could go back and forth to Cuba like that.
And a lot of people went,
Right. I think that if he were going to get got, that's the time he would have got.
Well, DJ Rhino said Russell's next.
Well, now they've been working on Russell for I shouldn't say they have been working on Russell. I should say that a lot of Russell's activities have seemed to have caught up to him. Because I don't want to disparage or, women have been victimized.
Yeah, Russell's caught.
Assault, and I don't want to shade. I hope none of it's true. But that's kind of been public for like the last few years. And that's why he was in Omali.
True. That's
well, Hakeem, you and DJ Rhino come, and we need a half an hour every week to keep us abreast of what's going on in the hip hop world and the good, the bad, and even how she came back to the country world and she
that was dope. Yeah.
Yes.
So she got a song with Willie Nelson and Dolly Parton.
Yeah, I listened to it today. Right? I listened to it today.
Fire!
It's a really good. I mean, Lemonade was fire, right? I'm not a Beyonce fan. I'm not right? But I like art and I like great poetry and I like hip hop.
Right.
Beyonce's been making like the spirit of hip hop in her music, in that she's just does what she does. It's like
country music is ours,
art.
By the way.
That's right.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
So
and that's the story we need to tell.
Yes.
And
Whoopi country music.
Yeah.
I got
I have to give it to Whoopi. She did a good job.
Yeah. One more thing is, I did an answer to Jay-Z's Open Letter.
Okay.
No. It's called Return the Sender.
Wow.
Okay.
So we need to talk about this next. You need to be here next week so we can continue talking about this. About like you said, country music is ours and the history, because they're telling a false narrative, but how she really came out and she went right in and just took back what is ours. So
this ain't Texas.
Yeah.
So next Friday, hip hop will have a lot of issues to discuss.
I'll be in the building. I will be in the building.
All right.
A response to an open letter. Country music is ours, and who's next?
Yes. And so let's thank all of our guests.
50 got more stories to tell. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's all right. Thank all of our guests who came on tonight. We had a wonderful lineup from beginning to end. and we are, and I, like every week we have like great people. So thank you for our guest, Sharon Redding. We got to get you back from Community Services and Newark Community Street Team. And good luck on the women's clothing drive. Thanks, Trevor Conroy and Jamie.
Trevor and Jamie. Mm-hmm.
Yep. And thank you both for coming on, representing People's Organization for Progress on this new leadership training program.
And let me just say right there's a call. It'll be on page, the new youth group. They are recruiting people, and if you want to be a part of it, their name will be on our page. You can reach out to Trevor or Jamie.
Yep. And shout out to thank you, Jennifer Sellitti, for coming back on.
Defender, that's right.
And for the Office of the Public Defender, right? And of course, Charles Barron, Omali, Yeshitela.
Molly wasn't able to get on. That was Lisa and Cesar.
And Omar, yeah.
Oh, right. Lisa.
And Charles Barron.
And yes. Thank you all for coming on.
And stay tuned for Lisa coming back with her hip hop song. That's what she told us.
Yes. So it was a great show tonight. So until next week, good night.
Until hip hop.
24 hours apiece, August 23rd, August 24th in the in the West Ward on South Orange Avenue on 14th Street.
All right, August 23rd and 24th. Nice. Thank you.
April 4th. Remember Dr. King, Martin Luther King statue, 4:30.
All right.
April 4th. Yep. All right, everybody. Have